try not to talk before it says you are recording. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this edition of the Nantucket Historic District Commission. It is Tuesday, November 12th at just a minute after 4 p.m. Let's see. If you'd like to tape record this meeting, please let the chair know. The meeting is being audio-video recorded. It will be displayed on the town's YouTube channel. Please don't share or display anything you don't want shown. Please turn off your phones. And comments through the chair, please. It makes it a lot easier for our minute makers to know who's speaking. Many of them don't recognize our voices yet. Let's see. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
It'll be the regular board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, comments by the chair. Organizational meeting scheduled for November 14th. That happens to be Thursday at 3:30? 3:30. This is going to be at the, let's see, the Plus Conference Room. So you go in the main building, the pool area there, and the office pool area. And it's, all of you have been there. I would urge people who, members, to please attend in person. The Zoom is very difficult there, and we'd like everyone to participate. So if you can't make it other than Zoom, that's just how it is. But I did want to remind folks that better to be there in person, given that particular venue doesn't have strong Wi-Fi. Commission discussion and vote. We are on to 29 Fair Street, determination of minimum maintenance under, actually, can I get a motion to make a correction to the agenda under number 2, commission discussion and vote, topic number 1, to modify the reference chapter 12-13 to chapter 124-13? No, that's fine. Typos happen.
So moved.
It'll be the regular board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that carries. I'm going to go through what we are doing and how we are doing it on this. We don't typically, it's been 7 years, I think I've been on the commission, and I don't think we've ever had one of these. Well, in any event, I want to run through it quickly. And then there'll be an opportunity to name the sitting board. We can address if there's any recusals at that point. And then we'll make a note as such. Okay, so what we are doing and how we are doing it. This is a discussion amongst commissioners to determine whether a notice of violation is warranted. To meet due process requirements, this is directed not at anyone in particular, and I think it's an important consideration, so I'm going to state it. According to Town Council Ethics and Common Sense Convention, commissioners who deliberate or vote should be unbiased. The town's recent required open meeting law seminar addressed this and related topics. That's number 1 under to meet due process requirements. Number 2 is commissioners who want to deliberate and vote will, in my estimation, have had to have viewed the structure, because we are making a determination based upon what individual members have seen. So if you didn't view it, I would ask you to stand back and let somebody else, if you're a regular member, step up as an alternate who did view it. And I believe Holly informed you all about the view requirement. So that's an important one. At this stage, public comments will not be gathered. However, if the commission determines a violation notice is appropriate, that notice will be issued directly, and if so, the notice will include a request for the owner to initiate corrective action, including to come before the commission at a publicly noticed meeting. At that meeting, in addition to hearing comments by the owner, their agent, the abutters, and the public may comment. I will note for the record that we did receive a letter from the, the owner's agent indicating that they would be requesting a noticed hearing to comment, which we welcome. And another correspondence was passed on that occurred between, I believe, an abutter or a community member and one of the owner entity's representatives, and that is part of the record. Those topics will come up if a violation notice is determined appropriate and at the hearing that we have any follow-up discussion. Okay, before I get into onto the code, onto the code section, is there anyone who would like to recuse on this?
I'm going to recuse,
Okay,
Mr. Chair.
right. For the record, let that reflect. Ray Pohl recuse. Anyone else? No? Okay. For this section of the code to be applicable, the structure is required to be contributing. Holly?
The wood box is an individually significant historic structure in the OHD. So yes, it's contributing.
Thank you, Holly. This is for the commission as well as folks at home who haven't had. Our determinant is based on primarily exterior conditions of the building, subject to section 124, 13A and B of the town code. I presume you've all studied up on it, just in case anyone needs a refresher. And for the folks at home, I'll provide a quick recap. A, owners of contributing buildings and structures are required to provide sufficient minimum maintenance to the minimum extent necessary to keep such buildings from falling into a state of poor repair. B, this requirement applies to certain exterior architectural features and to interior portions of buildings and structures which, if not adequately maintained, would cause the exterior architectural features to deteriorate or become damaged. More specifically, applicability is to foundation, exterior walls, or other vertical supports, be they exterior or interior, roofs or other horizontal members, including joists and beams, and chimney or chimney support systems. Okay, so that brings us to the discussion of determining whether a violation notice is warranted. So I have, again, myself, Abby, you're sitting?
Yes.
Angus?
Yes.
Yes? Ray, you are not. Val?
Yep.
And Carrie, Joe, and Connie. Pick a number between 1 and 10.
Joe can go,
Well,
or Connie, I'm happy to sit up.
okay, if you don't want to pick a number, that's okay. I appreciate you jumping in there.
I'll just let the,
Whoever would like to pick a number between 1 and 10, please do.
Do we verbalize it?
No, say it out loud. 1, 2, 3.
4.
Okay. Closest without going over, the number was 7 is Connie. So Connie, you'll sit. Thank you.
that seems fair.
Appreciate.
I like that Las Vegas approach.
Okay. I don't think I'm going to need this, but Val did get it for me. Every once in a while, I break it out. I just want to make sure it's working. Okay. All right, we are going to move on to discussion. We know who the board is. I would just like to ask that we stick to 1, the foundation, the exterior walls or other vertical supports, roof or other horizontal members, and chimneys or chimney support systems. Are they in any of those in such a condition to warrant a violation notice for minimum maintenance of buildings and structures violation? Thank you. Who would like to begin?
I'll go,
Val.
if no one else will. I took pictures and gave them to Holly if anybody wants to see them. I do think there are portions of this building that look like they need immediate attention, but with regard to the things you just discussed, the chimneys seem fine. There is a roof hatch that's askew. And clearly, if you peek in the windows, it looks not great, but we don't have a purview over that. It does need some TLC. I will agree with that. In terms of a violation, maybe that would oust somebody to get going, but there are buildings that are worse than this that we're not doing anything with. So I guess we should just ask them to do something.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, Abby?
I think it's, sorry, Abby Camp. I think it's in pretty bad shape. I'd like to see the roof repaired or redone and the foundation definitely looked at. But I look forward to this coming back before us and working on it as a renovation, because we did we did okay something, and I was looking forward to having that building, brought back up to its historic, whatever that is. Glory, okay. So I would look forward to that coming back before us, but definitely the roof and the foundation, I thought looked like they needed repair.
The Morning Glory needs a new location. Just saying. Let's see, Angus?
Thank you. So I do feel that that the building envelope is compromised. There are windows that are broken, panes that are missing, gutters that are smashed, so they kind of, would act as a vessel for water and then do a slow drip down the building, where they're missing shingles and exposed sheathing. There's missing window casing. There's the roof scuttle that is ajar. Yeah, there are a number of areas on the building that I believe are compromising the historic structure. Thank you.
Thank you. Connie?
So yes, I did view the building, and I do feel there are some areas that need some help. I wouldn't, listening to the actual violation, I think, like Val said, I think maybe this would spur someone on to restore this building before it gets too far and we're not able to do anything.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, I guess that leaves me. Yeah, clearly, the building envelope is compromised in at least one location that's very visible. I think there was perhaps a couple more, much less so, but where shingles have been pulled back. As Val said, there are worse structures, but I'm not comparing it against those. To my mind, this rises to, I think that we are highlighting, the citizens' complaint came in. It's highlighting a need to address maintenance on this, and but to my mind, it doesn't rise to, at this point in time, which I'm going to revisit in a moment, issuance of a violation notice. I think that if we were to be 2 weeks from now, someone did a drive-by, and perhaps 3, and there's, no evidence of work going on to, it's relatively minor work on the exterior. Not speaking to the roof or the foundation, which, are obviously aged and in need of attention, but the minimum maintenance standard is the minimum required to do the minimum amount. So I think in some regards, the code itself ties our hands. But to go back to my perspective on it is that I don't think it rises to a violation notice. However, I think now that it's been brought up and it is in focus, that continued lack of maintenance could very easily and very quickly rise to a violation. So in my mind, this is something that I've set to revisit, just after Thanksgiving or around Stroll weekend. And those are my thoughts.
Mr. Chair, could I just ask a question?
Yeah, please.
So I just want to make sure that, so if they are fined, is that going to make them work immediately on some of these structural problems? If we let it go, does that mean they will not consider it like an emergency or what? So I don't want to have it get any further, so I don't know how I'm going to.
So I'll answer that the best way I know how. My philosophy is you're a path, not a wall. And also, fining is a punitive measure for corrective action. And I think, this, from my understanding from the letters we've received, one, the owner's clearly aware. 2, they've mobilized. And to my mind, given the fact that the maintenance that is required is relatively minimal as opposed to we have a structure with a hole in the roof, that one side wall is falling out, there isn't a window missing, something along those lines. My personal opinion is that they would be taking action. They've stated they will, and that we do have some latitude to, for lack of a better term, pull up people by the short hairs if they're not. So if we do vote that this is not going to result in a violation notice, that doesn't mean that 3 weeks from now that the circumstances have changed because we're not seeing the maintenance happen. So for me, a part of the solution, a part of the code section is that no maintenance is being done. And I would prefer to give them an opportunity to cure. And if they don't cure, then I believe we can revisit this and we can issue a violation notice. Number two, I can't determine what's in someone's mind. And I know you're not suggesting that, but who knows? If it's ignored, again, I think we have the opportunity very easily to put this on the agenda. The fact has changed in that, the facts at that point will have changed in that, one, not only are they aware of it, two, they had the time to begin to do maintenance, and three, they did not. And that, to me, would constitute a violation of against an individually significant contributing structure. I know that's a long-winded answer, but it's the way it is.
Just on, while we're still
Yeah,
discussing.
please, Abby.
Abby Camp. So I was wondering, what about getting a structural engineer to have a look at it, to just give us some backbone on what we are voting on here? So if somebody goes in there and says, yes, this is structurally unsound, or not,
Yeah.
we would have
I
something to
don't
fall
know.
back
I just want to reread the. Okay.
As a non-voting member, I
Yeah, right.
sort of comment on that.
Yeah, please. You're
That-
commenting in general.
What,
You're commenting in general.
in general, just on that question. So I think we've all known the wood box for a long, long time, and it's never been particularly structurally sound. You know, the ridge has always sagged for the 30 years that I've been here, and I'm sure for a long time before that. So a structural analysis of this building is not going to say that it's structurally sound. You're not going to get an engineer to say that it's structurally sound. Now, whether that is through neglect on the part of the current owner, or whether that is simply something that's been occurring over the decades and decades that it has been in existence, is a question. So that's all I have to say on that.
Yeah, and I, thank you, Ray. And I'm going to go off of that. I don't think it's a question that we can answer through the limitations imposed under this particular section of the code. I don't believe that we can be compelling someone to, under the current circumstances, which are primarily the exterior elements creating or leading to a state of poor repair. We've identified the roof hatch is askew and that shingling needs to be done. We have identified that the roof is, not new and needs work, and the foundation may also, but those are not necessarily neglect. So I would tend to think that at this point, we would be looking at simply what we can see from the outside and whether it's being, and then the next step is whether it's being remedied. Now, the next step is whether we issue a violation notice or not. I think that that's still relevant and important. I don't think this stops this evening. I think there needs to be a follow-up. We want to see some specific performance with the hatch and the shingling, at the very least. It'd be nice also if, the applicant, the owner is ready and willing at some point in the future to come in and share their plan. I think they did get a little bit into it in one of the correspondence I read that was circulated to you all. So, there's nothing to suggest they can't come in and share their vision and some idea of a timeline. I think that would help us all, and it would be good for, members of the community who put in a complaint, and other members who are interested. So I think that's probably more than enough at this point, unless somebody would like to comment further. Okay. Val?
I think all of the public notice on this in social media and newspapers and everything else is going to compel them to do something. So I, like you, think let's give them a chance and see where it goes and then get stricter.
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, please.
Just to add to Val, yeah, giving them the benefit of the doubt, I think that's fair. But I also think we should put some kind of time limit on it so that it's not dragged out.
Sure, I think that's a wonderful idea, and Holly, why don't you tell us what our meeting schedule is? We will be meeting next week. I think that's too soon. We will not be meeting the Thanksgiving week. So that gives us
Oh, I thought we were.
did we?
We are not meeting the week of Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
We're not?
no.
Oh,
No, that's the day of the Fenway game.
I'm
Yeah.
aware. I was torn.
So it looks like December 3rd would be the earliest reasonable date with respect to our schedule. I guess what I would ask, just while we're having this discussion, is what is our threshold? I think it's important, like when we convey revisions, we're clear. What are we looking for by what date? If we're going to suggest, for example, that the roof hatch be, if in fact it's askew and water is getting in versus it's just at a kind of kittywampus angle and it's still weather tight, if we're suggesting or requesting that the shingling all be repaired, then I would feel more inclined to say sometime closer to the 10th or the 17th. If we're going to say, which I think is basically more appropriate. I guess what I'm trying to say is let's maybe give them enough time to actually make the cures that are clearly, evidently, visually required. And then if they haven't done them by then, we can go right to violation notice discussion. So that would be maybe with permitting a like-kind application, a building permit, I would say probably the 10th, we would put it on our agenda and do a view, maybe on the 9th. Does anyone have a concern with that approach?
I just have one.
Abby? Yeah.
So thank you, Abby Camp. There is a window where the window looks like it's caving in. I'm wondering if they could do something temporary just to keep water out of the structurally part of the window that could be getting worse and worse. And they could make they could be temporary fixes and then, I don't know, we could put a limit on when those had to be fixed by, or
Are you
they
talking
can be immediate.
that window?
Yeah, one of them is missing a whole sash and trim, and
Okay.
so there's some immediate,
I think
yeah,
we
which
could,
side is that?
Abby, I think we could put that into a motion. I mean, look, our purview is to say either a violation has happened or not. But at the same time, I think we can communicate formally by a vote such things as any deficiencies that are allowing for water to enter the structure be immediately addressed, even if in a temporary fashion. And by the 9th of December, there will be a material, any items that are deficient from the exterior, being the shingling and the roof hatch, will be addressed. And subject to that, we will be, subject to the results, we will be scheduling noticing a meeting on the 10th of December to reconsider our position. Angus?
So are we setting a meeting for the 10th?
I think we should in
To put this
advance,
on the
and that-
agenda?
I think that's fair.
And hopefully, we see that it's weather tight by then.
Yeah. Weather tight, and in the meantime, take the emergency steps necessary to prevent, if any are required, take those steps, as near to immediate as possible. Is anyone uncomfortable with that approach? Okay. Val, are you comfortable making a motion to that effect?
I think so.
We are not issuing a violation notice. Take any steps required if water is coming into any location in the building to at least temporarily shore it up, and material modifications to the deficiencies of shingling and if the roof hatch. And we will be meeting on December 10th after review on the 9th.
Review. Okay.
And you don't have to restate that, it'll be.
That's my motion.
There you go.
Okay, let's see. The board again is myself, Abby, Angus, Val, and Connie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that carries. Okay, we're going to move right into 6 Woodland Drive, Cabana. Pardon me?
They're coming up. They're down here.
Yeah. 6 Skyline, I'm sorry, 6 Woodland Drive. So this was, well, you all can read your agenda, but for the folks at home, this was reviewed June 18th, and a motion was to hold on a complaint pending further review. The result was work was to be completed by September, provided the project used the originally approved COA, which was issued on, let's see, March 3rd of 2022, and that we would reopen the topic by October 15th if modification was not made. Modification is to change the roof structure to meet the original approval, which was a gable versus a flat roof. The board sitting was myself, Ray, Val, Angus, and Abby, and our alternates were Carrie, Connie, and Joe. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chair.
Can you give us an update and maybe tell us why, if the work hasn't been done, and what you propose to, a tight timeline you propose to address it?
I can. John Schaefer for Skyline Road LLC, 6 Woodland. We intended entirely to do the work in September, as we had talked about. The owners ended up staying longer than they ever have at the property. They usually are gone by the 3rd week in August, which is why we thought September would be good. They stayed on until after Columbus Day, so we couldn't do anything while they were there. We started the work last week. We've ordered the roof package. We've done some of the demo. I've been in touch with the abutter and let them know what we were doing, satisfy their concerns. They had come to several meetings before. We filed the paperwork so that the permitting would get caught up with the conditions on the ground. And so we're hoping, I've ordered the roof package. It should be here by the end of the week. And by the end of next week, we should have most of it done, so.
Okay. And would you, just before we begin discussion, would you have any concerns with scheduling a meeting to confirm completion? And is a reasonable date the 10th?
That's fine.
Okay. Who would like to ask questions or
I'm
make
good.
comments? Ray, you're good?
Yep. And the abutter was Ed.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
So
got in
he's
touch with
aware.
him. He's aware.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good just revisiting on the 10th.
Okay. Yeah, except, well, Val.
Same, he's just explained why it wasn't done, and
Yeah.
I believe him,
And
yeah.
gave that information to the concerned abutter, and
Yeah.
I think that's all fine.
Okay, good. Angus?
I don't have anything to add, thank you.
Abby?
Nothing to add.
Okay, and I'm with it. So I think what we would like to do is motion to revisit this and anticipate at the December 10th meeting, anticipating material completion by that date.
That's fine.
Is that your motion, Vale?
That's my motion.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that carries.
Thank you.
I mean, if it's done by the 10th, just submit something that says it's finished,
Yeah,
and then we don't even have to review it, you don't have to come in.
yeah, send some pictures and
Yeah,
have Ed come in and tell us.
right.
Okay. Thank you for coming in, John, and we appreciate you getting on that. Let's
Yeah.
see, 6A Silver Street. Let's see. So this was recently approved with an Exhibit A to simplify the shed with square windows and kick panels on the door. The owner contacted Holly, who passed on to me that some of the information was not conveyed by the applicant's agent, which was to go ahead and change the portal windows to square, more traditional windows, but also that there's no visibility. So I asked that it be put on a view based on the images that were provided, and based on the fact that there was a pretty clear disconnect between what was to be presented and what was presented. I was hoping you all would take a view and we would very quickly be able to dispense with whether the little less traditional roofing masses and jogs in the building, whether atypical or not, could be approved based on no visibility or not. So that's why it's on the agenda before us. The board is myself, Abby, Angus, Carrie, and Connie. And I'm hoping you all took a view, and if anyone would like to comment, either way, I'm ready to go with that.
I'm happy to begin.
Go ahead, Angus.
So I go by this all the time, but today I really paid special attention to it. And this is looking from West Dover Street. This is an area that has a lot of vegetation, but the vegetation is thin and thinning as we head into the winter. There's deciduous planting that is light enough now that you could see fairly easily what's back there, but I feel like in another month, it would be very visible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Angus, appreciate that. Let's see, Carrie?
I agree with Angus. I didn't stop very long, but I slowly drove by, and it seemed like anything new back there would be visible. But that said, in the summer, it won't be. So it's kind of a quandary.
Okay. Let's see, Abby?
I'm not sure whether it can be seen or not, but it does look a little crowded back there. And I'm not sure it's the vegetation is going to screen it.
Okay. Connie?
So I did peek from West Dover also. I live right there. And I have to agree that in the winter, when the vegetation, it's not nice and green, you will be able to see the shed partially.
So the question then becomes, do we feel that there's not enough visual evidence to indicate, Valerie, are you going to speak on this?
If I can, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I'm
before-
not sitting on this application.
Yeah, so you're representing the,
I'm speaking as somebody who has worked on this property.
okay, no, just to understand, that's all. Okay, go ahead, Bill.
I worked on the house, the addition in the rear, and yes, there are times that there is some thinning vegetation, but I would also point out there is a pool already approved here with the caveat can't be seen at time of inspection and thereafter. So perhaps all you should ask for is extra vegetation that's year-round. This is a shed, there's a pool. That's all I'm saying. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. So that kind of dovetails into, one, do we feel that with the visibility, the atypical structure is inappropriate and therefore the decision should not be changed? Or it will be visible, it's atypical, but it's screened enough that it can be approved? And that ends into Val's comment that the pool is viewed, is approved with not visible time of inspection or thereafter, which means that the vegetation that is there is clearly going to have to be supplemented, or it's not going to pass inspection. So that's kind of just to lay the groundwork on what the fact pattern is and what we want to do, I guess, to see what we want to do as a decision. Anyone?
I do have a question. So the proposed, with the two flanking wings, that's what's proposed, but there's already a shed here, is that correct?
That's on the neighbors.
That's on the neighbors? And the pool, it says view at existing, well, it says POL, but I know what they mean, and proposed shed location.
Yeah, the proposed shed is what we're reviewing. The pool was approved
It's built.
and in.
So, definitely vegetation, because I think this is an oddly shaped cabana.
Yeah.
So that's where I am.
And so what, just to follow up on that, Abby, do you feel that the vegetation required to screen the pool is sufficient to screen the shed, or something else would be required?
I'd like to see it simplified. I guess we'd all would like to see it
Yeah.
simplified. Okay, so, what vegetation are we gonna be using here?
Well, I mean, we can say not visible time of inspection or thereafter,
Yeah.
including in the winter.
Yeah,
I mean, I
because
think, or thereafter includes in the winter, but we
well,
can,
also this shed is hiding the pool, so
yeah,
so it's kind of a dual purpose thing,
yeah.
so.
Okay, I mean, you don't have to come up with a comment at
Landscaping?
this point. Yeah, we can just decide. Angus, is your hand up?
Oh, I'm looking at how little space there is between the south side of the lot and the pool and the proposed shed. And it's an interesting area there in that valley, as built up, in the center of town. It's kind of a wild area, and I'm hearing the approval and placement of the pool, and it's obviously low to the ground because it's built in the ground, and it's stone and it's water, and that's kind of natural and sort of would blend in with the vegetation that exists. But I don't believe that the existing vegetation is going to be screening the shed enough, and I would hate to see a wall of Leland cypress crammed into that little buffer that's provided to hide it. So that would be my concern about this saying that the screening of the pool is going to be adequate for the shed. I feel like it would have to look unnatural to do that.
Okay, thank you. So my thoughts are that additional screening would be required. I think natural vegetative material could be naturalized, and let's see, evergreen viburnum could be used, or like a rhododendron, which are going to be more of a shrub-like and certainly not a Leyland cypress. I would not be in any way in support of creating a green wall that is itself an architectural element, unless it's just adding to the mounding that exists there. So those are my thoughts. What would we like to do?
The lady herself, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What's your
The owner and your eye are.
Okay, why don't we take comments from them? I didn't realize they were here. I would have let them begin. Holly, who was the owner? What's her first name? Barbara. Barbara, are you unmuted? Can we hear you?
Yes, I just unmuted. Can you hear me?
We can. Why don't you go ahead?
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. I've been listening to everyone. Just for clarification, in January, February, and a little bit of March, everyone is correct in saying that the town lot behind me, the vegetation gets a little lighter. That being said, because I've gone by there many times, and I do see from my house a little bit of the street of Dover. That's the only time. You can see a little bit of my house, but my shed will be much farther over. It's almost behind the house. So I have where the shed is, the existing new shed, that neighbor on Dover. My shed, that their house comes a little bit, well, I can see that, but my shed will be blocking the neighbor on West Dover. So what you're seeing through West Dover in the wintertime, you cannot see that the shed that I'm going to build. It's just too far over. You just can't see it unless you go into the lot, the town lot, and go into that kind of a little bit of a mess and try and, look over to the left of my property. So I'm just clarifying that. I think that's really important. I can certainly put in some more trees. I have roses of Sharon, but they are deciduous and they do drop in the winter. They're almost about 6.5 feet now. But I am happy to put something else in, but I can guarantee you will not be able to see my shed even in January or February or even March.
Okay, thank you, Brenda.
And it's very small and narrow. That's
Thank you.
what I can fit in there and what I need to fit in there for the shed.
Okay, thank you. Uri, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I pretty much wanted to say the same thing. That's not going to be visible. We will make sure it will not be visible. There will be plantings that will block it, and and also there is that neighboring shed which is actually blocking, which is much bigger and blocking the view at this proposed shed.
Okay, thank you. Back to what would we like to do, folks? Angus?
I think the way you described it, Stephen, is if there's naturalized vegetation and it's not a wall of cypress, I think this could be mitigated. There's just a wide vista, if you look on the south side of this along Dover, that gives some wide angles of this area. So if we give the proviso that it's not visible, but hidden by something that's more natural than the cypress wall, I think that it would be acceptable.
Okay, thank you. Did anyone want to add to that?
I would say minus the round windows and just put in some square.
Yeah, and I think the kick panels on the French
Kick panels
doors.
on the French doors, yeah.
I think that was Abby's comment last time. So it sounds like we're okay with not visible time of inspection or thereafter. Plantings used for visual mitigation are to be indigenous or nearly so, and planted and maintained in a naturalized fashion. The prior approved fenestration changes are part of this decision. Does that summarize it?
Can I ask one more question quickly?
I think I would say no, you're right. Just at this point, we're at the point where we can move this thing forward. We have a consensus.
Right.
Do you have something you think would materially change the outcome?
I was wondering about it, the door, why does it need to be changed? It's not going to be visible, and it's going to be approved as not visible.
Okay. I think they were part of the prior approval. Brenda, would you mind a traditional looking kick panel French doors? Barbara?
I'm sorry, I didn't, can you repeat that? Because I didn't hear my name until now. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure, no, it happens when somebody uses the wrong name. Apologize for that.
Okay.
Are you okay with the kick panel French doors?
Okay, I feel like I'm a little bit dumb, but I wanted to mimic the doors that I have on my deck, my
Okay.
house going out to my deck. I wanted it to be similar to that. So, and
Okay.
Val knows what I put up there. So I don't know if Val could respond but to that.
Okay, Barbara, hold on one second. So Uri, are the existing, prior existing French doors 15 light?
Yes,
Okay, so is anyone?
that's why
considering
we
those
use
back?
these, like,
No.
these windows, I mean, those.
Okay, all right, so I think that we are at, not visible time of inspection thereafter, plantings to be indigenous or nearly so, planted and maintained in a naturalized manner, and the window fenestration to be, what was it?
Square.
6 light, and French doors 15 light. Is, somebody want to make that motion without having to restate it?
So moved.
Carrie, thank you. We're all here. The board, again, for our minutes maker is myself, Abby, Angus, Carrie, and Connie. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
I'll be opposed.
And for the record, Abby Camp opposed. Let's say Abby Camp is a no. All right, I promise
you.
we're going to get to consents.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Thanks, Uri. 10 New Whale Street and 5 Candle Street. We are at the point in a process where we have received citizen complaints regarding minimum maintenance under Chapter 12413. And we need to, not at this meeting, determine whether a violation notice will be issued. In order to do that, we need to do a view. So this is just a formal notice that, to the public and to you all, to observe open meeting law, to please go do a view of those and why. These, I believe, where did we leave it? There's so much going on. These would be heard the 19th. So we will have a discussion on the 19th under the same format and process that we had this evening for 29 Fair Street. The outcome to be determined at that point. There will not be comment gathered from the public or from the agent or the owner. Obviously, anyone is free to submit correspondence and it'll be on the record and we'll review it prior to that. That moves us on to consents. Who do we have for recusals?
3 people, myself, Joe, Carrie. Oh, 4 people,
Okay, so
I goofed.
No, Abby?
that means the board will be myself, Abby, Angus, and Connie. And does anyone have comments on any, who's sitting, of those persons, on the consent items? Does anyone have a motion? Don't be shy. Abby, are you doing your preview right now?
No, I'm just looking to see if I put something on here.
I'm teasing you.
Motion to approve consents
Okay,
as printed.
thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that carries unanimously. We are now on to consent with conditions. Do we have any recusals?
1.
I think.
Okay, Val. And so we'll have Joe sit on this. So it'll be Angus, Abby, myself, Ray, and Joe. I just want to double check. Yeah, I got nothing on this. Do we have a motion? All right, first of all, do we have any concerns? Okay, do we have a motion?
I can make a motion to approve.
Okay, all in favor is a raise. Motion to approve, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that also carries unanimously. That brings us to 4 and 6 Mariner Way, and Ray is chairing both of these.
Yep. Okay, Paul Santos. While you're coming down, Paul, we're going to be reviewing 4 first, because we do have 2 slightly separate boards. myself, Stephen, Val, Kerry, and Abby on the first one, 4. And then we'll get to 6 in a moment. So Paul, just having had the experience, you generally give us a lot of information, which is on the one hand is good, but you want to start straight to like whatever revisions?
Yeah, we're going to make this very quick on both of them.
Okay.
Thank
great,
you.
Thank you.
For the record, Paul Santos with Nantucket Surveyors. On behalf of the applicant, Doherty ACK LLC. This is an application or a revision to a previously approved pool application for 4 Mariner Way. The revision entails elevating the pool within an existing proposed deck by approximately 2 feet above the floor or frame of the deck. This application was held a few meetings back. Essentially, and if I could just quote from the chairman's comments on why we were here at the last meeting. What we were looking for, and this is quoting Chairman, what we were looking for at the last time was for the board to cogitate on how exactly the motion would be worded. So there was some discussion on closing this one out, how they were going to word the motion. We came before the board, and then it was requested to show one last attempt here to show the board what we were proposing to do with regard to visibility. And that's the plan that you see on the screen. So that plan sets forth revisions to the previous applications that provide an updated planting to be naturalistic in its design. We added a hedgerow or a living fence as a buffer to the pool area. You see the section elevation provided to better show the proposed conditions, and provided a chart of plant size and installation and growth rate. The buffer plantings we're talking about are red cedar, American holly, and American arborvitae. As you can see from the sections, the pool will be effectively screened. This would be a year-round screen, and the pool would not be visible from Mariner Way, which is a private way that traverses through the subdivision. There is, as the chair had mentioned, there is a complete package that you've all seen numerous times with all the sections, site photos, and so forth. But I think this is what we're here to discuss, is this essentially the board's decision on how to craft a motion, and then whether or not this plan here satisfies concerns that the board may have had with regard to visibility. And I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Hey, Paul, thank you. The one thing you certainly just commented on the visibility from Mariner, but could you also comment on the visibility from, what do we call it? Washington Street Extension.
Sure. Again, similar to Mariner, there would be the pool would not be visible from the Washington Street Extension. And again, there's supportive information in the file with regard to photos and so forth. There is a buffer, there's a large wetland buffer between this area and Washington Street. And we do have screenings that also, not only from Mariner, from the backside of the property. So.
Okay. Paul, thank you. Let's see, Holly, I believe you're first on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the revisions that you've received do include vegetation as something that I've been mentioning a while. Appreciate that. I wanted to mention that with the 12 evergreens, cedar, holly, and arborvitae, seems to be a little bit out of an anomaly, but as I've mentioned before, that those are vegetations right out of Concom's recommended. I think the comment is for you all to whether or not this is appropriate with the character and setting of the old historic district. Screening obviously is something that has been consistent with the commission's approval for pools. So I did want to mention, I am concerned about the straightness of that's so linear there. If there's any way to make them so they're more natural in planting positions, that would be most appropriate. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Holly. Mickey, your turn.
Thank you. So this is Mickey Rowland, and I'm representing the Historic Structures Advisory Group. And that includes myself, Jason Finger, Mary Bergman, Marcia Fader, Sandy Kendall, and Diane Coombs. So regarding this application, the linear rows of pitch pines, red cedars, and arborvitae needed to completely screen the pool year-round creates an unnatural wall of screening, which is very uncharacteristic of traditional downtown landscaping. And typically pine trees don't do well in salty soil conditions, which this is likely to be. That's it. Thank you.
Mickey, thank you. And do we have anyone else on Zoom or in the room to speak? Okay, Amy? Amy, your turn.
Good evening. Thank you, commissioners. For the record, my name is Amy Cohane, and my husband and I live at 76 Union Street. I've been representing 9 other abutting properties and many neighbors in the direct vicinity of Mariner Way, all of whom have been opposed to the pools at that location since we first learned of them in April 2023. This letter relates to 4 Mariner Way, but pertains to 6 Mariner Way as well. Building with Nantucket in mind explicitly discourages those designs that are inappropriate to the island's sense of place or that are, quote, visually disruptive. I'd like to reinforce Mickey Rowland's comments from both tonight and from October 8th, when he said, quote, planting dense layers of trees and bushes between the houses to hide the pools would look out of place and be foreign to the neighborhood. Rows of red cedars and holly between houses and driveways would look very unusual and make the whole thing inappropriate. On October 8th, Chairperson Welch stated at 54 minutes into the meeting, quote, my main concern is the permanency of visual mitigation due to saltwater flood impacts. A little bit later, he said, in summary, I think we should move the pool, perhaps downsize it, and consider a living fence if it's to be approved. Those are my minimum standards. He later said, as I stated, I believe it needs to be mitigated and brought closer to the house. A living plant material is necessary. I have concerns about potential saltwater flood damage affecting plant material, and we need reinforcement for visual mitigation to ensure it can be replaced if removed by nature. The revisions submitted by the applicant do not meet Chairperson's explicitly stated minimum standards. As the pool was not moved, it was not downsized, and the living fence that is proposed is deemed inappropriate by the town's Historical Structure Advisory Group. A quick reminder that at the July 23rd meeting, Commissioner Oliver said, these houses are already raised, and adding more visual elements would make them even more incongruent. Commissioners, we urge you to uphold your standards and not allow further disruption in this area of extraordinary importance. Thank you, Amy Cohane, John Hardig, on behalf of all the abutters and neighbors.
Thank you, Amy. Anyone else? Okay, I think we can go right to the board. Goodness. All
I'll
right.
go. I'm ready.
Val is ready. Okay, Val.
So this application has gone on for so long, it's ridiculous. And if we had instituted our 3 and you're out standard, we'd not be dealing with it anymore. What has not changed on these plans, the planting plan may have changed a little, but I have all the minutes from various meetings in front of me, and there are so many things I've asked for that have not been addressed. Specifically, forget about the pool, the other hardscaping items. The 5-in-1 fence has been said repeatedly, it's too extensive, and it's right on the property line. We'd prefer it to be inside the property line and have some vegetation on the neighbor's side. I do see there's some vining material, but it doesn't seem significant, and I still have no idea where that fence is. I have highlighted a plan myself where I think it is, but it is very unclear in this plan. We have a proposed 5-in-1 fence with no photo of it or drawing of it. We have a pergola proposed with no photo or drawing. We have shower enclosures that are, I surmise, on the elevations of the house, but should be on this application. and photos of the bluestone material. And lastly, the herringbone pattern of the brick seems rather anomalous, and it's on all of the driveways. So those things I still don't have, so I would feel like I could not vote on this today. The original pools were approved because they were integrated completely into the surface of the deck. The decks didn't look weird, they were just sunk down, you didn't see them. In retrospect, we should have asked or required that the Concom approval happened prior to our review, but we'll remember that for future situations like this. It's surprising to me that Concom, even though the regulations get stricter, that pools are allowed, but it's an act of freezing zoning, which again keeps coming up and is very confusing to me. I guess you can freeze zoning for everything. And that's not in our purview, so anyway, the problem is we deal with the fallout of these things. This becomes the arbitration board for all of it. And now we're faced with the situation where it's not possible to mask in a typical way. This is an example of an application that should have been, oh, I already said that, 3 strikes and you're out. The vegetative screening needs to be more naturalized. I think we've all said, and it's reflected in Paul's very detailed minutes. We'd prefer not to see cedar trees lined up in a straight line, which is happening all over the island and becoming far too often of a solution. I just think in town, it's appropriate altogether. I will say, if we're inappropriate.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's all I have.
Val, I just kind of, through Mr. Chair, Val, you listed a couple items. One was the pergola, and then something, and then the exterior shower.
It's written down. There you
Okay,
go.
thank you.
Okay, Val, you're all set.
Yeah.
Who would like to speak next? Feedback here.
You got the reverb.
I can go because
All right, Abby. Yes.
I agree with everything Val said. But I do think for the historic district that these groupings of buildings are just seem so out of place in, where they are. It doesn't, to me, seem like something that would have happened naturally in the historic district. Having said that, when you are on Washington Extension and you are looking back, it's a very naturalistic landscape. And to see a row of red cedars is going to look really incongruous. So I think, having the pool even higher up in the air is just, that's why we're having this row of trees. And I think that's the problem right there. But I think just pools in the historic district, just because it just seems so out of place to me. So those are my feelings.
Okay, Abby, thank you. Let's see, we have Stephen and Carrie.
I'll go. It seems like Paul's doing the job to hide what's there, but what's there is, well, we're not even really seeing it because we don't have a drawing of the surround of the pool, which is a 4-foot high railing, which is atypical. Is that weird?
Yeah, I would say just push it away from me a little bit.
So I'm just having a hard time with that. The fact, you said earlier, yeah, you have the pools approved, but you had them approved at grade or on a deck at grade. This is now, the top of the railing is 10 feet above grade. So the deck level's at 6 feet, the railing is 4 feet. That, to me, says 10 feet. What is the deck level?
3 steps.
It'd be nice to get clarification.
Yeah, and
All the drawings have been in the file
I mean, if we just look at.
But we
the-
don't have them scanned here on this thing. Sorry, Stephen.
No, we get 75 pages of old plans
Well,
in
actually,
17
this time we
directions,
did-
and we don't know what we're looking at.
I don't think we've, yeah.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
If you've got a deck and it's more than 30 inches above the ground, you got a 36-inch rail.
Right,
So it's
and this
9
is a
feet
4 foot-
minimum if it's 6 feet above grade.
Right.
That's all.
But it
That's all I'm
says
saying.
here on the plan, 4-foot railing.
Okay, so that's 10 feet above grade.
No, they're not. Can I just,
Paul,
I'd
you
love
have
to
the
clarify
floor.
it.
Paul,
All right.
just run us through an.
First floor elevation of the structures is elevation 9, based on the flood code. So your deck would be at 8.5. The pool is 2.5 feet above that. So we're at, what, 10.5? And ground elevation is anywhere out here in this area, approximately 5.5 to elevation 6.
Okay, and then the wall surrounding,
It's a
the railing
standard
surrounding.
36-inch high standard deck rail.
Okay, well, then you need to change the drawing because it says 4-foot-high wood railing. See architectural plans, but the architectural plans are not included, so it's a little bit hard to really understand. So maybe that should have been scanned in.
And we're talking elevation above the water, we're not talking
No,
10 feet
well,
above grade.
partially. That's the way Paul led off, but then he took it down in terms of feet above grade.
Right, because the grade, yep, elevation grade is at something 5. Well, I
All
have
right.
nothing else to add.
So Carrie,
I'm done.
you're finished. Okay, thank you, Stephen.
Yeah, so I have to agree with Val on a lot of this. We've been looking at this for a really long time, to the extent that believe I requested at the last meeting that we would get a set of drawings so we can actually look at what it is we're gonna either approve or deny, or request modifications of. So that's where we are today. I too have some uncertainty about what the actual height is gonna be, and that's a problem because this is obviously a sensitive topic, and I want to know what I'm approving. I think that this is, of the three, the most likely, in my mind, to be approvable, subject to what I said at 4:57 of the meeting that I was quoted as, which I'm not going to go back into my comments. And that's pretty much it. Oh, I will say too, much has been made about our comments about the Concom. There's nothing inappropriate about us referencing the Concom decision. It does affect our decision to some extent. And I would say directly in that if the Concom is forecasting that a area is going to be subjected to coastal flooding, and plant materials being proposed to be utilized as visual mitigation, much as if an organization was saying, the HTC wants to put a fence here, but that area is on a cliff and it's not going to be there anymore. The HTC needs to be able to process that information and make a decision based upon all the factors that involve not visible at the time of inspection and thereafter. And that's just, I think, basic fundamental common sense. So for me, as I said, I'll reference my comments that were referenced earlier in the meeting, and that's my position on that. Thank you.
Okay, Stephen, thank you. So Paul, with that reverb tonight is,
know.
Can we
and it's
call
not just me, I think
No,
it's
it's
everybody.
everybody.
Yeah, okay, so, thank you for condensing the amount of information that we have so that it's more readily accessible. But I'm hearing two things from the board. You know that my position on all these applications is they've been kicking around enough that I would really love the board to make a decision one way or another and just move on. However, what I heard, two things were sort of foremost in my mind. One was the idea of the vegetation that you're proposing all being in straight lines and therefore very rectilinear, not naturalized. That was one thing. Two is, myself included, I think a lot of the board are still very vague and have concerns about the overall height of this, the tallest part, of course, would be the rail, the top of the rail against grade. So that information, as far as I can tell, is not in this package that we're reviewing tonight. Okay? So as much as I would like to have closure on this application of one form or another, I think there is room for getting some additional information. Now, whether you would want to pursue that or not, it's up to you.
Could I just ask a few questions, and
Yeah.
if
Yeah, go
being
ahead.
naive, just bear with me. Number one, you're talking about the incongruity of the landscape. When the old historic district, we know what it is. It's board fence and it's privet in a straight line. If this plan here came in with board fence and a privet, would we be having this huge conversation about the landscape being incongruent with the area?
But we're not.
I'm just asking, but I'm saying, we're talking about, I've got plants that the commission sees as non-invasive. But now, again, we hear this, we've heard it more than once about, it's incongruent with the area. Again, to be congruent, it would be a very simple plan. Line privet up and put fence up like everyone else does in this area. Why aren't we talking about scattering and the plantings when we put a privet in a straight line along the property line everywhere else, including in this subdivision across the street?
So may I, Mr. Chair?
Sure.
Okay, I think a couple of things there, Paul. One, let's not confuse the concept of landscaping and landscaping that is in itself, in a sense, an architectural element designed to mitigate an inappropriate, atypical, and/or inappropriate architectural element being a pool. Number one. Number two, well, you have a drawing here that says it was revised 10, bear with me a second, 10/17, October 17th. It indicates a minimum 10-foot height for plant material, and it shows a board fence element, which maybe is the exterior shower, that is close to 9 feet next to it. It does not show any indication in that elevation what the height of the proposed railing, and I don't even know if it's a shingled railing or not. So, and then basically we have information that, I appreciate is here and the completeness of what's being represented, but it doesn't represent the focal point of our discussions, which is specifically the height of whatever type of railing is being proposed.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. And Linda, I would appreciate it if you let the applicant's agent listen to what we're saying, because I think the other thing is we could just motion to deny this based upon a previously established rule that there be material changes within 3 meetings, which we have well exhausted, and I can guarantee you that that would not be arbitrary or capricious. We've literally sat through probably additional 4 meetings beyond the 3. I'm not suggesting we go there, but I would appreciate it if we just let Paul listen so we don't have to keep going through this. As I'd asked at the last meeting, I understand it can be confusing to somebody who is not regularly in front of us. I'm going to get to what I asked for in a moment. What we need is a specific set of drawings that indicate in big letters, this is proposed as of this date, because that's what we'll be approving. All the rest of it is for the record and for reference that if we need to look through. That is totally appropriate to put all the other information in here. It's part of the archival record. It's necessary. Sometimes we ask for it. If on an appeal, it may be required. But what we need is a set of drawings that clearly indicate this is what is proposed as of this date. And what we need to know is we need an elevation of what's being proposed with respect to the pool and the railing, the heights relative to grade, as it will be finished, because that's how it will be inspected. It won't be inspected relative to sea level or any other datum. It's going to be what's out there relative to a benchmark being the top of a door and the grade. And I presume that in a project of this level of sophistication, the grade is going to be set and it's going to be shot and it's going to be placed. So we need just some very basic, simple information presented in a very basic, simple format so that we can do our job and not delay this any further.
Okay, I want to do a point of clarification.
Please.
Stephen meant architectural elevation as opposed to engineering elevation.
Yeah.
You know, it's one thing to have the rail is at 32.5. What he means, and what I think a lot of the board would be very interested in seeing, is the actual architectural elevation of what you actually intend. Now, that has existed, I've seen it in past packages, it just happens not to be in this package. Well, no. In the file doesn't do us any good because
So
we have this information in front of us.
So this is where I think I can hopefully make this easier on what looks like I'm going to do another submittal. But, so my old business checklist comes in. You have your old business checklist
Yep.
with the minutes and then with the new information that's submitted. And then all this back data is all the previous filings, hearings, and everything else. Everything we spoke about tonight is within this. And I understand, to go back and look at this package every meeting is unfair for everybody.
Onerous.
So I'm very happy to do an old business submittal with nothing more than the old business checklist form, and then just 3 or 4 sheets of what the heck we're now ended up at.
That's it. The
I'm
elevation,
happy to do
the
that, but
architectural elevation.
your requirements do require that all the other backup information does get
I think you're
submitted.
going to get a little bit of expansion on that.
We also, it's not singling you out. When we approve a hardscape plan, we want the materials called out, at least a picture or a drawing, so that the person who goes to inspect, you could say 5-in-1 natural to weather cedar fence, and there's 18 different kinds.
They've already, all the hardscape for all 3 lots has already
Yeah,
been approved.
okay, so,
The
Mr.
pergola,
Chair.
the hardscape,
Okay.
the walkway, the driveway.
All right,
it's
hang
already
on,
been approved,
Linda.
Which is why we didn't ask for you to look at it again.
All right, thank you, Linda. Stephen,
Paul, I'd like to respond to your comment. I think you need to stick with what the old business checklist is. You already have the packet, it's a PDF.
Yeah,
All you need to do is supplement drawings you have to meet the information requests we've presented this evening. And on the top of them, give us a proposed as of this date. Maybe it's 3 sheets, whatever it is, put them at the head of the stack. We can look at it, and then if somebody wants to go back through the other information, which is why we require it and request it, they can do that all in one file.
No.
That file should include the hardscape that was approved. So if I didn't see it in there, and it should be in there, so that we don't spend time talking about
Yeah.
herringbone, bluestone, exterior showers, other items that actually have been approved, but we don't know it because we don't have it in the file. So we would, I think I understand the complication in trying to process this, but if you put yourself in our shoes for a minute, I think you have now, you will see, we need to know what you're proposing, we need to know what was proposed, and we need to know anything else that's relevant to the approval that was previously approved.
okay.
Okay?
I can appreciate that, and I appreciate Carrie's comments, because it's just not, as I said, I've looked at it enough now, I know where everything is, it's buried in the middle of this old business stuff, so I understand what you're saying, so.
okay. Shall we move to hold for some revisions on this one?
For that information,
For
and
that
I will say, I still believe that the pool should be relocated, and that would help us. But I'm gonna make a motion to hold for additional information and any revisions we can get. And Paul, I hate to do this, but I presume the next one is gonna be the same.
It's gonna be the
So we'll
same.
hold it, and who knows, tomorrow night, we've got a date, so we'll see what happens
See what
there.
happens tomorrow night, yeah.
Okay?
Okay, so that
Thank
was
you.
your motion, sir? On both?
Yeah.
Okay, so all those in favor of Stephen's, somewhat of a complication here. We're gonna do that motion on 4 Mariners Way. Commissioners, you know who you are. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now, with the substitution of Joe Paul with Kerry, let's do another motion to essentially same motion as 4 Mariners Way. Can I have that, Stephen?
I'll repeat my motion.
Yeah, okay.
Aye.
Oh, you mean you'll repeat it?
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, rinse and
Yeah,
repeat.
rinse and repeat. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Okay.
Bob, which one are you here for? Okay, so that went in consent. So what that means is that you've been approved. You had an opportunity to sit here and enjoy the show, but you don't have to stay because it's not going to come up again. Okay, didn't know if you knew that.
Which one is it?
It didn't happen until it was posted
Yeah.
because we
After
don't
2
review
o'clock.
them. Yeah, so you're good to go.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Which
Sorry
one
you had
is
to
it?
wait.
Okay.
Okay, Stephen, back to you, sir.
Matt? Somebody with their hand up?
No, she's had it up.
Oh,
No,
Amy?
I have a question. Thank you for speaking for me, Linda. I just wanted to ask about this pergola. It has been referenced a couple of times, and we don't see a pergola on the plan.
Amy?
Yes.
Thank you. Just procedurally, we've closed the hearing.
Okay.
So I believe that what's going to happen, if what we've requested is made good, is that the prior approval that's been stated as occurred that include the pergola will include will be included, and we'll be able to address that in any event, whether it was approved or not, we'll be able to address that topic when this comes back to us at the next, for the once it meets the submission deadline.
I'll give you the actual
Linda,
approved,
please.
house approval, too.
Amy has the floor. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Okay, great. So now we're going to move on to 45B Vestal Pool Hardscape.
I don't want to hear it, I just want to open it and move it so I can resubmit new plans for it, so it goes on old business.
Pardon me?
We're changing out plans, they wouldn't let us do it before because it was still under new business. I want to open it, immediately continue it, so we can put in a whole revised plan
She's
for
suggesting it
old
now,
business
so
for a
it's
Thursday.
For next week.
Subject to the Thursday at noon deadline.
Yeah,
Okay.
we got it already.
Does anyone have an objection to opening this? I think for the purposes of,
Everybody's
we need
here,
to
so,
establish a board. It's a regular board.
yep.
I'm going to open it and ask if someone would make a motion to hold for updated information.
I can, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
On Ray's motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that procedurally addresses the matter. All right, 1 Cherry Street. Ethan,
Hey,
good evening.
well, what's up?
Yeah,
This was Fast Forward Coffee Place, the little building. That's not it.
boy.
That's a prior. That's the one we just approved, not approved, that we continued.
So he's going to make a brewery with 5 beers.
What?
It's gonna be he's gonna make beer in this, and it's gonna take
In
that
the
little
pool?
building right there. And what he wants to do is between the 2 windows is add French doors and a little deck, and in the back, put one of those walk-in coolers like you've seen behind Pie Pizza and 56 Union and a bunch of other restaurants. That's gonna be hidden behind a fence.
Add porch and French doors, okay.
Yeah, it's on my drawings.
So anything else, Ethan?
That's it.
Okay, I
There
had
you go.
this under my list to review, and, I had some thoughts on it, but I didn't have any major concerns. But given its location, I felt it was appropriate for the board to weigh in. So that's why I didn't put it on consent. It's the regular board. Holly, do you have anything on this area? This is infill, probably.
It is in the OHD, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
So for the record, this is a non-contributing 1978, at least based on the NHL data, the old Espresso to go. Adding the French doors on the east elevation is visible from 3 public ways. As proposed, I don't believe it's appropriate. I couldn't tell whether or not, if you had a kick panel on there, Ethan, I think that would be helpful. The 18-foot-long deck, I don't believe is appropriate in this location. Maybe another elevation would be preferable, and although the cooler is atypical, obviously there's other structures around the area that have those. I think it should be screened at most as possible, because it obviously does stand up, maybe have some vegetation if at all possible. So those are my comments, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Holly, appreciate it. Mickey, does your group have anything to add?
Yeah, we definitely agree with just what Holly just said, but the question is that, is the back of the cooler exposed as metal, vertical metal panels, or is that board sheathing the cooler itself?
It's a temporary structure that's placed there, and it's stainless steel like all the other coolers around the island, and that is also against, if you look at the photographs, you'll note it's against the property line, which is heavily vegetated, and it's got a fence around it. So this thing will be, if you want, I can put fences on both sides, you're right, to hide at the 6-foot board plank fence.
That would be great. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, we do have a hand raised.
Okay, yeah, who is it?
It's Bill Boggle.
Bill, are you to speak on 1 Cherry Street?
No, actually, I'm sorry. I raised my hand for the previous property, but you moved on very quickly. I had a comment about that.
Okay, so that is number 1 Cherry Street, or I'm sorry, 45B Vestal?
That's right.
Okay, so I believe you heard, but I want to make sure you're clear that we will be picking that up next week?
And that will come for discussion and not for consent?
Correct. I presume it'll be for discussion, but you're welcome to come in and, I don't think it's going to be consent. It's in the it's 45B, it's not actually. I would monitor the agenda, and if it's on consent, you can always come in and try
Okay,
and talk
I'll do
us
that.
out.
I'm the next door neighbor, that's why I'm just interested, but I will monitor the agenda.
Okay, and the other thing I just mentioned is if you, if you have concerns, please put them on the record by submitting them. It's much more effective for a variety of reasons.
Right, okay,
Not to say you can't come and speak, but it certainly gets the ball rolling.
got it, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, back to, sorry, Ethan.
I forgot what we were here for.
Yeah, exactly. 1 Cherry Street, any other questions for Ethan? Okay,
Yeah, I can do, the doors have kick panels, yes.
who would like to comment? Regular board.
Could I ask a general question?
Abby.
Ethan, what are the lines that seem to be going all around? No, the squared off ones that seem
That's
to,
the curb of the existing parking lot?
okay, so that's existing?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Concerns?
I have a question for Ethan. Is it necessary to have the 2 doors and the 2 decks?
Well, one is the original entry
Yeah,
into it. The
I know,
back
I
door is
worked
the-
there when it was a coffee shop.
Right, and the back door is the second means of egress. And he wanted a place to people go and sit outside and
Okay.
drink beer on the deck instead of the,
Well, it kind of reflects the building in front of it, and it's part of the same package, right? It's the same person.
It's the same person,
Yeah.
but someone's renting this building.
Oh,
Yeah.
I would think some planting in front of the deck,
Well, that's where the street is.
so you're not gonna plant it.
Yeah, it's gonna go right up to next to you know how usually people would parallel park there to get their coffee? They're trying to prevent that, to park in the actual spots.
Yeah, I get an idea for that.
Yeah, I have no concerns with the cooler.
Okay, anything else?
No?
Okay. Let's see, Ray.
For the reasons just mentioned, I was looking at Isaiah's place in the front that has that big deck that faces direct to Orange Street. Now granted, I'm sure there's more room for vegetating that, but I'm not sure it's a big deal having this, diminutive deck overlooking the parking lot just for a place to sit. That's it for me.
Okay, thank you, Ray. Let's see. Angus.
Thank you. And I appreciate this not going on the consent list for the reasons that Holly and Mickey have stated. And I don't think I need to reiterate the French doors and the deck and the exposed cooler. All those are concerns. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Let's see. Does that leave Abby?
Does anybody have any concerns about the side of the cooler being metal? I mean, I suppose, that's what it is, so why, put wood clad around it? I'm just wondering if it's going to look,
I'll put a fence in front of it.
well, right in front of it, so you won't
Well,
even see.
Off the building so you can open the door.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course, you want to open the door.
It's also for security. They don't want people breaking in.
And drinking all that beer.
What side yard?
That's Carrie.
You mean those two machines?
No.
No, there's a big open yard at the end of the building, the opposite end of.
Oh, go to the site plan?
Can we go to the site plan, please? Yeah.
Yeah, and the photograph shows a nice little yard, I'm not sure.
Yeah, the
why
yard's
they're
staying.
Not utilizing that.
Yeah, they're gonna utilize it.
Beer garden.
They're gonna utilize the whole thing. There will come in with a proper parking plan that I'm not involved with for all this place. And that will have landscaping and hardscaping plan. This is just for the building.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I
Do
guess
we
that,
get, if we pass it, do we get free beer, or what do we get
I
out
know,
of
right?
this?
we'll strike that from the record. And that leaves me, I mean, the parking lot is I think the only concern I have is the French doors, and I don't know that historically it's correct, but character and setting wise, this has been a coffee shop when it was active, and to me, it's like a couple of Dutch doors, 9-light Dutch doors are there, and it changes the perception of that space. I think that would be more appropriate. Do you have, can I see this? And I think, Ethan, under new building codes, you're probably gonna need to have another set of steps somewhere off that deck, as opposed to just one means of egress.
They said they researched all that stuff and they said they didn't need to. I know,
You're just saying you might wanna consider that.
Oh,
and
I brought it up.
If you did, you might wanna, depending on how this goes tonight, you might wanna get that,
I think that would be a revision.
bake it into the cake. Okay, fair enough. Depends on who's doing your plan review, I think. So, those are my thoughts. And what do we wanna do?
Is it just the kick panel, or are we reducing?
I think if those went to like Dutch doors,
That look like that?
yeah, I think French doors are gonna be odd there, even with a kick panel, because you're not gonna see the kick panel, it's gonna be hidden by the balusters.
Do you really mean Dutch doors? You mean like 9-light?
I mean 9-light, but it would be odd to have them there as a compound unit, and Dutch doors would be more functional because you
You mean a
have
double Dutch,
Yeah.
French door that's Dutch?
a Dutch door.
Double
Two
Dutch.
doors, the top opens,
Oh.
it's conducive to
But there's
what
a
you're
solid door.
doing.
It's not four parts.
Yeah,
4 parts.
Dutch door,
He's saying a Dutch,
A double Dutch door.
double Dutch.
Okay.
That's one of the fancy beers they're gonna be
French
selling, that
Dutch
Abby's
door.
gonna get for free, is double Dutch.
Okay.
It'll be a stout.
I'll make that motion.
So it will look like the 9-light, but it will be cut in half.
With
Yeah.
with the
Yeah,
two panels
that's a
below.
great idea.
Okay.
Gonna look wonderful.
I didn't know they made them.
Yeah.
All right.
Special order. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to modify with an Exhibit A to the French doors being double Dutch.
That's my motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, that
Thanks.
carries. Okay, that brings us to 19 Union Street
Joseph is not here.
and Joe Top
Oh, he is,
is
okay.
in the queue. Let's see, Joe, can you hear us? I've got to go turn the heat up. My feet are literally falling
cold.
off. Yeah. We need foot warmers.
Isn't that across the
I,
street kind of a?
I brought in the power strip. That's been to good use. I see that being used in meetings. I'm gonna start bringing in the foot heaters. Okay, Joe, can we hear you?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We can, thank you. 19 Union Street, as-built move arbor.
Okay,
And
so,
color change clapboard.
yeah, well, you approved the arbor, and it was built perfectly, but it was put 14 feet further back from the front. Go one more picture back, I think. Further back, there you go. It was supposed to be right where that gray fence line is, and they, for whatever reason, moved it back. So I noticed that. I figured I'd bring it to your attention, but that's what they did. I'd like to hear your comments.
Okay, thank you. Questions for Joe on that? Holly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is a 4-bay typical Nantucket, built for Sylvanus Ewer, built by Nathaniel Nye in 1803. It's been Habs documented. So this is an as-built arbor. I remember 4 years ago when this was reviewed by you all, based on the historic photographs that are in the file for the type of arbor. So it was historically on the lot. I wasn't too sure the rationale for it being in a different location. Now it sounds like they decided to build it in that location. I think it's a little incongruent with the approval that was previously done because it was based on the historic photograph that shows it closer up to the street. My main concern was actually with the fact that the painting scheme to the arbor obviously stands out as white compared to the rest of the house. But then the subsequent application before you is to change that all to white, so it would match. So my main concern would be the fact that historically it was closer up to the street, even though, again, it is atypical, but this historic precedent. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Holly. Mickey, you guys got anything to?
Yeah, Stephen, is your mic on? I couldn't really hear that.
It's getting some reverb, but can you hear me now?
Okay.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Okay, thank you. I don't have much to add. It seems that if it was up close to the street historically, that it should remain there. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Let's see, Ray.
I'm actually fine with it being back.
Okay, Vale. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was going to elaborate a little bit.
Yeah, please.
I mean, listen, I think it's kind of a delightful little folly, but it isn't particularly suited to this building. I mean, it looks more Victorian in nature, so, downplaying it is, to my mind, a better solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Vale?
I don't mind the location either, but I think I'd prefer it to be gray. So it sort of, it's there, but it's not like, wah, in your face.
Okay, thank you. Abby?
Yeah, I agree with what's been said. It should be toned down.
Angus?
I agree with what's been said, the location, just because it's so different than other things. It's great to keep a piece of the history, but gray and further back's good with me.
Okay. I'm good with like a light gray, maybe not a platinum, but just a shade darker. No concerns otherwise.
Can I use the gray that we're going to use on the trim? It's already been approved.
What's the gray, Joe?
It's on the drawings. It's in the packet.
So you don't know offhand and I don't know offhand. Can someone tell me?
Let me go to the
Doesn't
color
s-
change application.
Is it the color change?
Well, the color change is just the clabbered.
I think, is it Nantucket gray? Is that
Perspective
blue
gray is what the
Yeah,
application
there
says,
you go.
Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you.
What is it, Holly?
The application for the color change is going from perspective gray to white.
To white? But that's just a clabbered.
Yes.
So Joe, is the perspective gray clabbered the same gray as on the rest of the trim, or is it a different gray?
The gray trim is called a winter solace, which you all approved.
Winter solace.
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna go, Joe is proposing that be changed to winter solace gray,
Yeah.
which is the color of the trim.
Oh, okay, that's quite dark.
And is that your motion, Abby?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries.
This is the same architect.
Okay.
So
Joe,
can you
on
just, can you
the-
just hold on one, can you hold on 1 second? Just don't, before you change that application, can you go back to the arbor one more time, please?
Yeah.
If you don't mind.
Go back to which?
Go back up one more, sorry, was that a
Oh, to the arbor?
Yeah, go back. One more, keep going. One more, please. There we go. Okay. So that gate, I would like to do that on the opposite side of the house. And if you go down further into the images, there's a pickup truck in front of it. So if you all remember a town meeting, when the feckless sod broke into the house down at 47 Union Street, right prior to before breaking into that house, he was in the backyard of this house. And so they'd like to put that gate on the opposite side of the house, on the north side. And I just want to, I'm going to bring in an application, but I just want to make sure that that gate would be approvable on the other side. And it would be back and hidden by the
Might
parking.
have to go through.
Joe, I just want to be sure I understand correctly. You're talking about the gate at the picket?
No, the gate within the arbor.
Okay, so you're talking about, we'd have to review it.
That's fine. I just, if you guys had a comment about it, that's what they'd like to do. But on the opposite side where the parking is, which would be hidden by the parking. But they just want some gate, and she really likes that gate design.
I think with the truck there, it's harder to say for sure, so
Okay.
I'd say go for it.
The picture is kind of unclear.
Yeah.
So we
There's
can't
a
really
better
see
one,
it.
if you go down further, there's a better image of it.
Okay,
Send us a-
so let's look at the picture and then we're gonna move on to the next one.
Just want you
No,
to
to
know.
one with the truck in front of it.
Right.
Yeah.
There's not one of the truck, Fiona says. Okay,
And if you go all the way down to the end of the packet, there is the arbor drawing that I submitted way back.
Joe, I'd suggest it's plausible, and once we have it, we'll work our
Okay.
way through it.
Okay.
Is that cool? Okay.
Yes, no, thank you. I just why I had you for a second. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, no, gotcha. Color change clapboard.
What's the color, Joe?
White.
So originally we had a gray and we'd like to just change it to white, just that clapboard. Well, it's currently yellow and we'd like to go from the yellow and just make it white.
So it is.
And can we go to, is there a picture just showing the full front of the
Oh, he
house?
does have it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, just as long as we're seeing an image
Yeah.
of the front.
And we were just gonna go the historical Nantucket collection
Here it is.
white.
Okay, so white and the trim color stays the same?
Yep, yes.
Holly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, 4 Bay, typical Nantucket, 1803. I would, if the board's so inclined to approve a white, I would recommend not a bright white. It's not like there's a house like right around the corner, I think around the
Not
corner.
like the gate.
Not like the gate, but also when you have the white, it's too white. I think it needs to be more of an eggshell white to be more appropriate. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Okay, so not stark white.
What about that Lancaster that Ray mentioned a couple weeks ago, Lancaster white? It's a Benjamin Moore
Kind of a
historic
creamy
color.
color.
So that's
I think
Abby, and it's a creamy color, and we're gonna go
an
to
off-white.
Mickey.
Thanks. So we would prefer this to stay some sort of a color, not bright white. That just seems too formal for a house of this age and period. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Abby, you wanna start?
I would be okay with the Lancaster. I'm just gonna bring it up for our board to take a look at the Lancaster white to see that it's an off-white.
Isn't it more yellow, kind of where we're going, where we are now? Just for clarification.
Oh,
Yeah, I feel like it's too yellow for her. It's kind of what we have. I mean, I,
So
Well, it
hard to
just-
tell.
It appears as yellow, but it's kind of more of an off-white.
Okay. Joe, I mean, well, why don't we get comments, and then I think what I'd suggest is if you, I don't know, let's see where we end, but maybe it's gonna be a color swatch, so I don't wanna go through the process of giving you approval, and then you gotta come back, because it's not the white that your client is gonna accept.
well, can you just do one more Google search, which is basically the historic Nantucket collection,
Yeah,
sign colors?
or you could just tell us the color, and because
Well,
we
no,
all have.
because it's a board that's, you guys basically have.
Yeah, no, if you tell us the color, well, we've all got it memorized.
It's MHC-1.
Oh, thanks, Joe,
No,
make
not
it,
like
making
that.
it
Oh, it
easy.
says white. Well, there you go. Bingo.
There you go.
Which one is it?
Oh, go back, there you go.
Is it,
Which is not a white, so,
it's top
but it's
left?
not the yellow or the.
Oh, I'm
It's a
gonna-
bone white,
Yeah, I'm
as
down with
opposed to
that.
stark white,
That-
it's bone
I
white.
think that'll be successful.
Fine.
Okay, Ray, comment
I'm good.
with a bone white?
Looks like scrimshaw.
Okay, Abby, you're good with scrimshaw white?
Yeah.
Okay, Angus?
It seems a little white to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that a no?
I would rather see it more pigment in it. It doesn't have to be yellow like it is, but that seems a little white.
Okay. Val,
I'm fine.
you're fine with the bone white?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm okay with the bone white. I'd prefer to actually see 6 parts winter solstice and 1 part bone white. I think that
You
would be,
sound like a decorator now.
yes, I'm working on my flair. Okay,
All right,
so I
BTC.
think we have a motion for bone white in the works.
So moved.
On Ray's motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Is there anyone opposed? Thanks, Joe. Is
Thank
there
you
anyone
all.
opposed to taking a break?
I think
No.
Because there's some food here.
Mine's the same thing, it's
Oh,
white.
Ethan, it always happens on your.
And we'll
thing.
come back just a few minutes before 6.
May I?
Are you sure it's the
run
same
home?
thing? It's white, mine's a white too.
You may.
Are you going white?
Yeah, they wanna go from like green and red and
It would break my heart.
to, white and gray.
That was one of my
Regular
first
members.
projects on
No
Nantucket.
worries, we got you covered.
Yeah, it's Victoria Hagan's dad's house. Yeah, that's where we first met. She was just coming out of school and
That's gonna be
Jim Hagan, this
painted
fabulous guy.
winter
Great
solstice
guy.
gray.
I said, hey,
Yeah, that's great.
Whoops.
Well, I'm always fast.
What, did you run over there?
I did. Is it bad if I'm eating my pizza sitting here?
Be succinct.
Oh, yeah.
We could be home at 7:30 if you're succinct. All right. I would ask, before we begin, in recognition of the fact that it's 6 o'clock, without any modifications to the agenda other than normal, we've got basically 24 items, less than 24 items here. So we could move through this very quickly.
Don't jinx it.
What? I don't have that page.
It says additional future action items.
Yeah, that we're not going to act on.
Okay.
So,
And 3 Newtown Court, which is my nephew, I'm gonna pull off and resubmit because I need to fix it.
okay. So
He drew his own plan.
I'm going to suggest you guys, we deal with that when we get there.
Yeah.
And we're going to move on to 42 Chuck Hollow. Ethan, color change.
Yes. It's a color change. Is there, you keep going down, there it is. It's
I
like,
appreciate the brevity, but a little bit of the help.
so it's red, green, and kind of a yellow-ish. And they want to change it to white and gray. And like, whatever I put in the application.
White trim, gray clapboard, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
And what, Gray?
The cobblestone gray or something, whatever I
Okay.
put on there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Let's see, regular board concerns?
No,
Anyone?
it looks sad now.
Yeah, it's like sad Christmas colors.
Really? I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah. It's like the gloomy Santa Elf's village. Yeah. Okay, so with that, is there a motion?
Motion to approve is submitted.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are helping in our own
Thanks,
little way
bye.
to renew the spirit of Christmas. Okay. We're now on to 1 Sconset Ave. Is Grayson here? Or anyone?
I do not see Grayson in the queue.
Is there anyone here to represent 1 Sconset Ave?
This is this has been skipped over a couple of times.
We'll hold and I'll come back to polling. That puts us on 25B Clifton Hardscape Curb Cut. Is Natalie here?
This is wicked easy,
Wicked,
and Sconset liked it.
okay. But Natalie's not here? Okay, do you guys feel okay with opening this up based upon this is wicked easy?
Yep.
Okay, before we do, Angus, you reviewed it, why don't you tell us what your concern was? Or maybe it's been addressed since then.
Are we on Sconset Ave?
No.
25B Clifton. Hardscape curb cut.
Hang on. 25B Clifton. Oh, so I think it's an improvement to move it back from the corner just for safety's sake, but also the issue for me is having the driveway and parking in front at all. So I'd much rather see a double stacked, front to back, single wide space further to the east, to the side, than doing another double wide in front of the house. This is a relatively large lot, and I mean, ideally, the parking would be behind the house off of Burnell or something, but of the proposal, yeah, I'd rather see a double deep, single wide.
Okay, thank you. Holly, can we hear from Sconset?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I do have comments as well.
Okay.
The main house on the lot is circa 2015 infill, and this property does benefit from two driveways pre-1998, so the other ones, they're grandfathered. The proposed one, I agree, it shouldn't be larger in width or depth than the existing one. It really should just plunk, get rid of the one and move it over to that side property line as much as possible and reduce the, I think it's the depth, maybe the width is the same. So those are my comments. And then Sconset just said the driveway relocation seems like a good idea, no concerns.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I've got a question.
Abby?
Why do they get two curb cuts?
They're closing one off.
No, there's one on Burnell.
May I, Mr. Chair?
Thank you.
Okay, Holly?
The property has benefited from two driveways since prior to 1998, and that was when the zoning bylaw changed. Basically, if they exist prior to that, they're grandfathered. If you're going to add one, you need actually planning board approval. So essentially, they're allowed to have two. Whether this relocating one is going to require them to get further approval from another regulatory board, that's up to them to figure out.
Okay, thank you, Holly. Abby, any other?
No, so I guess because they're going to have two, I would suggest that this one that they're proposing to the east of the one they're removing should be as small as possible. The minimal width.
Okay.
Thank you.
Angus?
Oh, I think I already stated my concerns, just I'd rather it be single wide, too deep, rather than double wide.
Okay, just
Thank you.
wanted to see if you changed your mind at all. Ray?
I'm fine, and I do want to say, it's the same width as the prior, 21 wide, and it's deeper, but that's only because Clifton, as a road, is narrower, and therefore the access to the property is longer. So it's only larger on the portion that the town owns. That's it.
To get to the street, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So, yeah, I agree. I think that this is okay as proposed. I just, it needs to be, we were talking about inspections, interestingly enough, HTC does inspections. And I would suggest that as a condition of our approval that we require vegetative screening as required in the zoning bylaw. And that will mitigate some aspects of this being big and wide open, maybe. And those are my only thoughts on it.
I didn't get to speak.
I'm sorry, Val.
I'm okay with it for the reason that it's the same width, it's going back a few more feet. It appears, but it's because the road moved in real life.
Okay.
So I'm fine. And
Okay.
I'm assuming they're leaving the vegetation they have.
I don't believe I missed anyone else. Would you like to make a motion, someone?
I'll make a motion to approve as submitted.
That's Vale's motion. On Vale's motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I am.
Angus, for the record, is opposed. A no vote. That moves us on to the next page.
Woo-hoo!
And Mr. Chair, I did want to let you know that Grayson will be coming shortly.
Thank you. That gives us 19 applications to hear this evening before we approve minutes. 39 Halbert Ave.
Hello.
Good evening. I just want to note for the record, Ray is not sitting at the table. Lisa, when you're ready.
Okay, this is a simple request. It was on the east elevation. It was to just shift a window to become a triple, as opposed to a double with space in between and then a single, because it's one room and just we're renovating the room and it makes more sense to put the windows together.
Okay. Holly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is a 1904 Colonial Revival, contributing, it does have an HDC on file survey. I was just curious on what the glazing is by adding another double hung to this elevation.
Oh, no, the double hung exists. We're just going to move it over.
Oh, Okay, if
If
it's,
you look at the proposed east, you'll see the window, there's just space in between. Maybe if they can go through the,
Fiona, when you get a second, if you could put the elevation up. Thank you.
yeah.
Holly, anything else?
That was my main concern, is the glazing, making sure that it doesn't exceed building with Nantucket in mind's recommended requirements. Thanks.
And we got an answer on that? Okay.
Yeah, so if you see, oops, there you go. See down below is the existing, where there's just,
I'm good with it, does or it doesn't.
well, I'm not adding any more glazing.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see. Mickey, you guys got anything?
No concerns.
Okay. Regular board concerns.
I'm good.
Any concerns?
Motion to approve is submitted.
All in favor of Val's motion, say, oh, actually, I apologize. It is the regular board, except for Ray, and including Connie. All in favor, say, aye. Connie, do you have any comments?
No concerns.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that carries. Next up will be Carrie. No, wait, 1, 2, 3. Will be Joe. Welcome aboard, Joe.
Thank you.
Okay, Lisa?
Okay, this is 32 Jefferson. It's an existing garage that we are revising some fenestration on and asking for a roof material change to red cedar. I'm assuming it's asphalt now.
Okay,
It
let's
is
see.
asphalt now, yes.
Angus, you, I'm going to get to you first, but first we'll go, when we come to commissioners, Holly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is a contributing garage. It does have an HDC survey on file. Circa 1920, you all did review this before for some changes to it. The proposed fenestration, I believe with the side elevations seem a little bit out of character. In the rear, I'm not sure the visibility of the rear, but I did have concerns seeing the larger sea window on that side elevation, what that visibility is, and it might be blocked from the house, I'm not too sure, but those are my comments, thank you.
Thank you. Mickey, anything to add?
No concerns.
Thank you. Let's see, Angus?
So my concern was it just switching from that 12 light that looks like was existing is on the opposing gable. And so, yeah, that was the concern.
Okay. Let's see, Joe?
I had no concerns.
Okay. Val?
I have no concerns as well.
Okay, Abby?
I have no concerns.
And
Motion to approve.
I would like to hear a motion to approve.
There it is.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that moves us on to 3 Newtown. Hold on a second, Linda. 3 Newtown Court is being held.
Correctamundo.
Okay. When we come back to our regularly scheduled program, we'll be on 1 Hedgesbury Lane. In the meantime, we are going to go back to Grayson and, let's see, 1 Sconset Ave, Hardscape.
Yeah.
Good
sorry about
evening.
that. How are you?
We're getting there. How you
Good.
doing tonight? Welcome to
doing
the
well.
HDC. When you see it, you can go ahead and walk us through, please, Grayson.
So this client's looking for a patio. There's some old mature trees on site that obviously will stay. We're kind of trying to nestle the patio into that corner between them, and stepping stones from the driveway to the house. He's looking for a bocce court, on the side there, and there's a slight grade change. So to make it all work, we have a elevation of, I think, 14 inches or so for a stone wall.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, do we have anything from Rob, Scott's crew?
Yes, Mr. Chair, bless you. So Rob and his group said that they weren't sure about a black privacy fence, and the height above grade of the patio is not clear. Otherwise, no concerns. Looks like the existing trees will remain, which is a big plus. I did want to mention for the record, the dwelling on the lot, 1982, non-contributing structure you've all proposed changes to. This is actually the third plan that you've all seen from the third agent. for this, for basically hardscaping and exterior features to the site. And it is a little confusing from staff's perspective, because I believe there were some that were approved with conditions, never actually fallen through, and then I think ones were held. So I do think that it would be beneficial for the owner to address what is moving forward. But there were concerns I did want to mention before from abutters in the neighborhood about proposed and what was going on. So those are my concerns.
And I just want to address that before we take additional comments. What we would be doing, I think, in this instance is, given the number of applications and some have been approved and some with conditions, is that if, for instance, we were to approve this evening, we are approving it subject to what is contained within the drawing, not bits and pieces of prior approvals, because those prior approvals can be acted on of themselves, but this is where we start to assert some control by delineating the fact that this is a standalone approval for what's on the page. Okay, so we will go to, did Sconset have anything to say independently, or did you encapsulate that too?
Oh, that's what I said in the beginning.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Okay, so that brings us to Ray.
Goodness. Can you come back to me?
Yeah, I'm happy to.
All right, thank you.
Angus.
Sorry.
I just want to confirm, this is a proposal for, that includes a black fence?
Well, no, it won't, it does include it, but it won't be installed.
I don't even know what it is.
Wait, hold on a second. So Grayson, just to be clear, are you retracting the fence or the black part of the fence, the paint?
For now, both, but the black ultimately completely, and the fence may be at a later date that I'll resubmit.
Okay, so we're looking at the application sans fence of any color.
Yeah, he wants to
And the
postpone.
motion would reflect that. Okay, thank you. Angus, please continue.
So that was my main concern. I might have something to add, but that's all for now. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, Abby?
What's a raised stone patio? Is that?
So because of the grade change, there's that retaining wall that's there, and the patio will be at the height of the retaining wall, 14 inches above grade.
Okay, let me digest that. Hold on one second. I'm just so happy the pool is gone, so I just don't want to.
It'll basically be one step up from lawn up onto the patio. That picture shows 3 steps, but that's just an image from the internet.
Okay, I think I get it. And what is around the brick to hold all that brick in? What is that material?
There's just a soldier course. It's all bluestone.
Okay, it just looks like brick, but it's actually.
Yeah, it's just the
stone.
hatch
Okay.
that I used.
All right. I think my only thought would be, because this is such a visible corner, I think a more rustic, what do you call it? When you're putting installation would be more appropriate for
Yeah.
Sconset. It looks a little rigid and.
Well, so it is rustic stone wall is what I'm asking for, because of those old mature trees and because of the corner, because the idea is for it to look like it's been there for a long time.
Okay, that's
Anything
what.
else, Abby?
No,
Okay, so we've established rustic stone walls. Grayson, I'm going to ask you to hold, and so
yeah.
we're not going back and forth. No
Sure.
big deal, but just so you know. Ray, you ready?
Yeah, I really have nothing to add.
Okay. And Dale?
I know this site very well, having spent most of my young life with the Santoses.
No.
My only concern really is that when you're standing on the street and you're looking toward the house that's there, and then the garage that was turned into a house, it's really wide open. I know there's some hedges there, but they really, unless they're gonna get bolstered a little bit, in my mind, don't really screen what's going on. And I did have a concern with the raised patio, but I really don't think it's gonna be that high. It's the grade changes from the street to that point, so I just wonder if we'll see it from the street.
I have an idea if to Val's problem.
And I appreciate keeping the trees.
Okay. Abby has an idea, and then I'll go.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so you do have some plantings around the driveway, and then they go along Sconset Ave. I wonder if you couldn't make a little privacy of that raised bit and extend that along the, I guess it would be the south side of that raised patio. Just, it doesn't have to be, yeah, just something to mitigate that right-on look to somebody's patio when you're, unfortunately, it is very visible, so anything to sort of make that a little more private, that would be my solution.
Okay, thanks, Abby. I get Abby's point. I've got a feeling some plant material, I don't have an issue with the stone wall and certainly the distance from the street and so on and so forth. So I don't think we need visual mitigation of the architectural elements, so I'm okay with what's proposed. I do want to get a clarification though, Grayson, on the neighbor side of, not the yard side, but the neighbor side, there is no retainage required. That's the high side grade that exists. Okay. So I'm okay with it as it is. I'm not insensitive to the comment Abby made, but I think that that will evolve out of your wanting to use it. We don't necessarily need the client wanting to use
The
it.
plan will be to hopefully reapply for a fence in that spot, the 5-in-1. It's just a budgetary constraint at the moment.
Gotcha, okay. So I think what we're looking for is a motion that acknowledges two things. One, that this is approved without any fence, and that it is approved as a standalone item. That is to say that what's on the page is approved and no other prior approvals in conjunction. Angus?
Oh, I just wanted to clarify on either side of that raised terrace, I was just curious what that material, is that the boxwood?
Yeah, so it's woodland planting, so it's gonna be a lot
So-
of ground cover, but those are the boxwood, yes, that's correct. The larger circles are the boxwoods.
So what is this?
That's the raised wall.
Oh, that is the wall itself. So I thought that was the
That's-
raised terrace.
That's the patio aspect of it, and then behind the wall, under those trees, is a woodland planting on either side of the patio.
Okay. I would be more comfortable if there was planting on the other side of the path.
Yeah, that's what I was suggesting from.
And maybe along the wall. Otherwise, that raised terrace and wall wouldn't be an issue for me.
Okay. And Grayson, I just want to clarify, you're not actually raising the grade here, you're just delineating a change in grade that exists.
Yes.
So that isn't a raised space.
No.
It is an existing height that you're putting a retaining wall to delineate clearly a step.
That is very correct, yes.
Okay, just wanted to double check. What do we want to do, folks?
Could I suggest a approval with the south side of the raised patio having some form of vegetation, just to give a little more privacy from the street, and that would be my motion.
Yeah, go ahead. And we'll,
So that's my
but-
motion. It's,
but what about no fence and?
no,
um,
yeah, no
This is a
fencing is
standalone approval.
off the application. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is a standalone approval, not to be,
Oh, it's no other approvals
Not to
before
be
this
mixed and
are.
matched.
yeah, not to be mixed and matched.
Yeah, this is the final approval.
And just before we move forward, Grayson, the result of that is if you're going to put a fence up there, just come in with that application. And
course.
then you can say, well, we'd like to not have the,
Yep.
this next approval, if it's approved, modifies the prior one. And
Correct,
just
yeah.
put the COA number in. Okay.
Understood.
Wait,
Can I ask him a question? Just for
There is
curiosity.
a motion on the
Okay,
floor, and I don't
it's
think
just
it's
a
going to
curiosity
change.
thing.
Yeah. Why don't you ask it, and then we'll move
What's a
forward.
black fence?
Well, it was a 5-in-1 that we were gonna paint, because basically, I didn't wanna look at the PT color, and so I said, maybe we'll paint it, but then in hindsight, after I submitted, I was like, that's a bad idea, so.
Yeah.
Okay, just
that-
curious,
That was
thank
a
you.
good idea.
Not a traditional Nantucket color. on
Yes,
fences.
yeah.
Maybe foundations. Abby's
Yes.
motion is been made. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. It's interesting, fences and landscaping take sometimes as much time as a house.
Yeah.
That brings us to, thank you, 1 Hedgeberry. Do we have a rep?
Newtown was being held.
Yep.
Yeah.
Finally looked at it and I was like, oh,
Oh,
fix it.
Nobody?
Which one?
1 Hedgeberry Lane?
I do not see anybody from MCA.
Okay, we'll do a temporary hold on that and move on to 50 Hummock Pond. Do we have someone from Chacon Homes here?
doesn't appear so.
I don't see anybody.
Carrie, you looked at this. Is this something we can dispense with in discussion?
50 Hummock.
Window well?
I thought it was pretty straightforward.
I don't remember why, I don't think I had a problem with it.
Oh, let's look.
Okay, let's do a quick
Super
looky.
easy.
Looky look.
Yeah, it's one window, I don't think I had a problem, I don't know how I missed it.
Okay. Why don't we open it, look at the site plan, and make sure there isn't something else on the application, and then we can move it.
Where's the tire?
Unless it's, like 20 feet wide and
It's not.
It's a single window,
nothing else on the
We even
application?
get an interior view.
Oh, nice.
Wisconsin.
Does somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Yeah,
Motion
it
to
doesn't have
approve
to
is
have-
submitted.
just-
Excuse me. We got a motion on the floor for 50 Hummock Ponds. Regular board, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. 18 Bishop Rise, new gate. Is Lindsay with us?
He is.
Lindsay?
Okay, come over the panels. There he goes.
And this was me. That re-
Well, the gate starts with the ticket to get in the door. Price of living on the island is the gate, is the big gate. Right?
Yeah.
All right. Hey there.
Okay, Lindsay, you're holding up the train here, brother.
Oh, sorry. I was waiting for them to scroll down. So we're just looking for a gate at the beginning of the driveway. We got a sketch of it. And we put some pictures that kind of look similar. Granite posts, 6 foot in the middle, kind of tapering up to 7'3". Country style gate. There's precedent in the area for it. Like there's one, actually a couple right on Gill Point Road.
Okay. Val, you had this one. Do you want to tell us what needs to be done so this can be approved?
I didn't have necessarily a concern with what's being proposed, except that on Bishop's Rise proper, I didn't see any other gates.
There's no gates on Bishop's Rise itself.
Right.
There's some on Gill Point Road.
Yeah.
And there's some on
Lindsay, I'm
Bishop's
gonna
Rise.
cut down on the back and forth. Sorry, but.
Sorry.
So that was my only concern, and I wanted somebody else to weigh in on that.
Okay, thank you, Val. Let's see, it's the regular board. We do? Is there anyone who's in the Zoom who would like to speak on 18 Bishop's Rise, Newgate? Please raise your hand. No? Okay. Let's see, Val, you spoke. Angus.
My concern is that there isn't precedent on Bishop's Rise of a gate or a gate like this. And also, just the amount of detail, the panel on the columns and the paint. It seems more appropriate to be natural and simpler. Thank you.
Thank you.
The
Ray?
images, sorry, but the
Lindsay?
posts are granite, not,
Lindsay?
sorry.
Lindsay, please hold.
Thank you.
Ray?
My comments echo Angus's, where I think these posts are really ornate. And the gates themselves are really atypical in terms of sort of like slender boards. I'd like to see something more in keeping with what we're used to seeing on Nantucket.
Thank you. Abby?
Yeah, I'm getting a little worried about the new type of fence that's popping up everywhere. I wonder if it's the deer, but in this particular case, I would like to see something at least natural to weather. Oh, there you are, up there. I was looking, I thought you were in the audience. Yeah, and further back would be more acceptable so that they're not right on the road.
Okay, thank you. That leaves me, the only deer with this gate is, I would say, oh dear. I agree with the comments, further back, simpler.
Natural to weather.
And the only other thing I would say is, Primrose came in. I would caution that we are not viewing and making decisions on precedents. There's no precedential rule or regulation in our rules and regulations, so.
Can
we
I
don't
just
need
say
to
one
preside that way.
thing?
When I finish,
Sorry.
okay, now you may.
If you can scroll up on the drawing, like I think everyone's looking at the picture down low of the ornate posts, but we're actually proposing granite posts.
Lindsay?
Nothing ornate.
That's helpful information, but I think
Okay.
comments were also about the, some of the details, like the planes, the detailing of the different rails and so on and so forth. It's not
Okay.
just a simple rectilinear gate. It's much more sophisticated and really kind of atypical and out of place.
So the board prefers more of a simplified gate, further back, less ornate, natural to weather.
Yeah, and
Okay.
maybe at least, what, 10 feet? And I think that might be successful. Do you want an opportunity to kind of confer with your client and then come back?
I'm sure they'll be fine with that. I mean, but I should probably redraw it to make sure we
Yeah,
get it. Yeah.
why don't we do that? We'll get a motion for revisions. Ray,
So moved.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
This is
Okay.
just for revisions.
Revisions,
Yeah, okay,
simplification, further back.
Okay.
And note the post are granite, please. Okay, that brings us to 7 Farmer Street. Lindsay?
Yep. So essentially, we'd like to take out the existing cobble driveway, which kind of slopes down, and switch it to brick, which almost every other driveway in the neighborhood is on that street is brick. And then we want to put in some linear drains because drainage is a little bit of an issue heading down into that garage. We're proposing herringbone because it seems to be common on the street. So that's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you. Holly? Well, first of all, any questions?
No, this was on my list. And it was just such a big change, I thought, and in town, everybody should weigh in.
Okay, thank you. I do have a question for you, Lindsay. You've got some pattern change where the drains are, and so I'm to take it there's 2 drains?
Yeah, so we've got 2 linear drains going down that slope just because the water does kind of run into that garage. So they have one current one, but they wanted to add another one.
Thank you. Okay, and there's no other brick on that side currently? It's stone?
In the driveway now, we've got an image of the driveway
Yeah.
further
It's all-
down.
It's just stone? And is the
It's
brick?
not even like super tight together. It's kind of messy.
And is the brick area any wider than the stone that exists?
No, it's pretty much that whole area where you see stone would just become brick.
Okay, thank you. Holly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So for the record, the house in the lot is pre-1768. It's a fairly rare example of a Dutch colonial on Nantucket. The site retains an existing driveway with looks like the cobble that's there. I am concerned with I didn't see, the dimensions are a little, I think, large for this site, not following chapter 139-20.1 of the zoning bylaw. So I would recommend that the driveway not increase in width with the change in material, understanding that the width is already there. But I do think that the existing material is appropriate. Brick is appropriate as well. I think herringbone is a little too busy, and I would recommend a soldier course or running bond. Thank you, Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
thank you. Mickey, you guys got anything?
No, a little bit to add there. So we preferred to see the cobblestones as they better fit the character of the old house. It's kind of a lot of brick for that driveway, and the herringbone probably not suitable. And also the sort of the segmenting of the front to the back all around the linear drains is kind of an odd change of pattern. If they need some brick just for a better walkway, because it's a more stable surface, perhaps just leave the driveway as cobblestones and put the brick driveway in. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Who would like to begin?
I have a question.
Okay, Abby?
Where's the apron to this? How do you get from Farmer Street into this driveway without the soldier course?
Incorporated into.
It's all, we're just essentially
So the
saying
herringbone
anything that's
goes
cobbled
right to
is brick.
Farmer Street?
Yeah, it just doesn't show the grade change. It'll pitch as it gets closer.
Yeah, okay, so can I continue?
Yeah.
Now that I know that, I think it's too much for this old house. I would do something, if you have to have brick, I would do a combination of cobble and brick, just to break it up. It's so much pattern is almost coming across as modern. Yeah, those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, Ray?
Off.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're off, so that means Carrie is on.
It seems like a lot of brick. I think on the cobble, you have cobble for the driveway, and then you have some stepping stones that are a completely different stone that are leading to the door. And in your depiction, you have a full brick everything. So you're incorporating the walkway to the door into the brick driveway. So you have a much wider driveway, and I think you should break it up somehow. And I think you should retain the cobble. And if you think it's messy, just maybe redo it a little neater, I don't know, and have a brick walkway and, to keep the cobble. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Angus?
I would somewhat echo what has been said. Right now, the gray tones of the cobblestone and then the paving stones for the walk are all sympathetic to the gray of the house and all sort of blend in. But the change to a red brick, I think, would detract from the structure, and there's so much of it. And the patterns and the inset drain, all that, I think, would feel very modern, whereas the cobblestone sort of meets the house at its date. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Val?
I have a question for Lindsay.
Yeah.
Are you keeping the little cobblestone wall or whatever that stone wall is that separates this property from next door?
Yes, yeah. I
Okay.
mean, and the main reason they wanted to go with the cobbles is just because, like, with the drainage and everything, it's easier to get the drainage to work
You
with
mean with the brick, Lindsay?
with the brick, yeah, and switch from the cobble
Okay.
because, like, with drainage and the linear drains and everything, like, it's much it's more effective with like a more solid surface than the
Lindsay,
cobble.
I'm gonna, yep,
Sorry.
we get all that. Val, anything else?
No, I think I agree with maybe a combo of those two things together.
Okay, thank
Be
you.
good.
Lindsay, so my thoughts are it's too much. I think the brick is okay. I think it needs to be just some serious self-editing with respect to the width. Keep the path separate. And I think that could be successful. I think unless the grade on that is a gentle slope the whole way to the street, please rethink the apron so you have some place to actually have the brick change slope. If the slope will work as you've drawn it, which is to say one plane, then I've no concern, but otherwise you're gonna have a bend in the brick and brick doesn't bend. And I know you know that, but I just want to point it out.
I'll make a motion to hold for revisions.
Okay, on Abby's motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're gonna go to 20 North Pasture,
This was also me.
also Val. Your aye?
Yeah, hello.
Hello?
You want me to say why I?
Not.
So, no, I cannot see. Yeah. So, this first application is for main house changes, pretty much fenestration in the front and back, changing to doors and few windows, and changing the railing to be the cable rail, which we went with because of no visibility. Try to change it to something different, but we assume there is no visibility, so it should be no problem. From North Pasture, there is lots of vegetation. The house is kind of set back and higher. Behind lots of vegetation. It's not visible at all, as you can see it on the first picture. There is from distance, from Poppies Road, there is at one moment there is very little visibility of second floor.
You're right. I'm gonna ask you, can you walk us through the elevations?
Sure, yeah. So if you could scroll further down, please.
Yeah, you gotta let staff know which page, please.
Here, yeah, there's a north elevation. That's where we are changing this single four panel door and then two windows that are next to it, and changing it to two double.
Yeah, you're right, that, we
door.
get all that. What's the next one?
And the next one is on the other side, on the south. We are changing. Yeah, this one west is showing the cable rail, and then south we are changing this big door and a window. And then on the side left, you can see there is a 4-panel also, 15 light door. And yeah, that's pretty much all.
Okay, and the next, anything else? I have a question before we move forward on your south elevation. This
Yep.
seems to show a section where the 4 doors are that's above grade, but there's no railing, and that's
Infinity Edge pool.
oh, infinity edge.
That's where
Okay, thank
the
you.
next application is actually for the pool that's set into the deck, and that's the infinity edge. That's where there is no railing.
Okay, thank you. Anything else you want to say?
No, I think that's all for now.
Okay, good. We appreciate it. Let's see, it's the regular board,
Want me
Ray.
to say why I?
Oh, Val, I'm sorry. Yeah, why don't you tell us why you didn't put it on consent?
I didn't put these on consent because there's some confusion with the applications as they're presented. the cover page of this is all hardscaping, and I just thought they were too intermingled, and I couldn't tell if we're voting for hardscape or we're voting for revisions on the building. And then the other thing is, there's this whole big deck with a pool in it with glass railing that's not mentioned in this application. So I felt like there really needed to be some clarification between the two. There's no topography on the site plan. It just was too interchanged, and
Okay.
yeah.
And what I'm going to say is what we will do as a matter of procedure is, on this application, we are looking at architectural changes to the structure and would be with exclusion of any landscape or pool elements. Which is to say, what
Yeah,
gets
this-
approved,
that-
if something gets approved, has
Like-
none of the hardscape or the
If I
pool.
could clarify that this hardscape page was supposed to go with the pool, which is the next application.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
Little review in advance would save us all a little heartache.
and then the pictures, and then
Yeah.
also in the next one led me to wonder if it would be seen, so that's it.
Okay, the pictures in the next one led you to wonder, do you have a concern still? I just want to make sure I understand.
Well, there's a huge topography drop off.
Yes.
With that deck sticking out like that with glass, I just don't know. I don't,
Okay, so do you feel like a view is in order?
I mean, I don't know.
Okay, so that's a question mark. Okay, just trying to get an
Yeah.
idea so I can figure out if there's consensus on particular topics as we go.
Mr. Chair,
Holly?
we do have Sarah Elger with her hand raised. I believe this is one that she's been wanting to provide comments on.
Okay, why don't we go back to public comment for now, and good evening, Sarah.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Excellent. Good evening. Thank you for having me. Just one point of clarification. Are you approving the house here or just revisions to the house?
We are reviewing revisions to the house,
Okay.
and
Well,
also hardscape with pool.
but separately, the hardscape and pool, right?
Correct, yeah, but just this evening, those are both on the agenda.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to mention that the HOA has provisionally approved these plans with the chimney being removed and with the certification that the height meets zoning and meets the requirements of the HOA documents. And I'm not sure, given the lack of topography here, that any of that's happening. It's just really hard to tell. There is such a change. I don't know if they're bringing in fill or how they're dealing with that. Particularly that 32 feet for one side situation. I know that probably is not within your purview.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it's not.
I can
But it's
answer
gonna
that
be-
also.
Yuri, please hold on, Sarah's got the
It's
floor.
just gonna be difficult if all of a sudden there's a lot of fill brought in to make this work, given what you're seeing here.
Okay, yeah, and I think, thank you for that, and you're
Thank
right. You know,
Yep.
I just want to caution, if it's relevant, that the house was approved subject to if there was any grading information provided, and a departure from that is potentially very problematic. So please keep that in mind. Otherwise, with respect to the HOA and with respect to average mean grade, those are outside our purview. And, but we will, I think, Sarah, be looking at that when we get to the hardscape, if there's any, I don't think there's any retainage changes. It's all the infinity pool and the deck. So I guess the upshot of that is please monitor it, because it's not something we can actually act on.
Yep, thank you.
Okay. And as Val had said previously, the plans are unclear, yes. So we're going to need to address the confusion in the plans in a motion, or we can just say we want the plans revised so that they're clear and they don't overlap, and bring it back when you're done. I just need to know which way we want to head. So I'm going to go on to the next person, which is Ray.
Okay, so to that, we have two applications. One's for architectural window and door changes to what I presume is an existing building. And then the landscape stuff. So if we limit the architectural, take away all of the landscape related stuff, what we really have is on the back side of the building, a change from double windows and maybe, it's hard to tell, a couple of French doors.
Val, hold on, please.
And he's changing to two sets of French doors. That part of it, I don't have an objection to.
Okay. Any other comments?
No.
Okay. Let's see, Abby.
Yeah, I have the same concern about change on the front of the house, which is north, changing it so that there are two sets of French doors facing down the driveway or facing the street. That seems like, and then you have cable railing sort of covering the front door. I think that's kind of odd. So I mean, the north is the front of the house. It should look like the front of the house. If you're gonna do some wild stuff, do it in the back. And some of this is mislabeled. On the south elevation, you have some vertical boards that are below the decking, but they're labeled cable railing. So I just clean up the verbiage. Yeah, the arrow just needs to go further up, I guess, but just to be absolutely clear, just, fix the drawing with the identification.
Okay, Angus?
Thank you. My concern is, it looks like there was a shingle rail before, which mitigated the glazing. And I feel that between the change of the fenestration and then the introduction of the modern cable rails and glass and so forth, that exposes a lot of the glazing that was somewhat obstructed before. And this really is a rural setting. So that would be my concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Angus. Let's see, Val, you went. So I would like to do a view, given the concerns expressed by the membership. I think I would like to know whether they're based on the drawings and what's viewable, or if they're based on the drawings and that they are atypical, but otherwise approvable. And at the same time, we need to have the drawings cleaned up. And Val, you mentioned something about floor elevations.
Well, the floor plans don't seem to reflect. I don't have floor plans that show it. Oh, wait, they do. Okay. They just need to be clearer. I don't know why.
Yeah, we need to actually, well, I mean, we're not actually approving the house at this point. But your drawing scans, please don't scan. Print to a PDF at a lower resolution, 300 DPI from CAD.
I
is-
know.
You're right.
Submitting it, I'm sorry.
The reason I mention it is I know you know, but we keep getting them. So it'd be very helpful, because at some point we're going to say, hey, you know what? We keep talking about this with particular individuals and we don't want to single anyone out, but it's wasting our time. So you're going to have to make the change and wait a couple of weeks and we'll see you then. So please preempt that. Can we get a motion
I'll submit
for?
high resolution and high quality.
I'm sorry, I can't understand what you're saying. Say that again.
I'm just saying that the revisions I submit with everything fixed and clarified, it will be much higher quality and it will be all readable and visible.
Okay, I'm not quite sure. I think where we are is view to have the site plan and the hardscape materials reflected on the pool hardscape plan and taken off the architectural fenestration changes.
And may I add,
And a view.
Mr. Chair, some topography.
And I think we need an existing topography, that's a good point, on the hardscape pool And Abby?
Could you show where the driveway is coming off North Pasture, coming up to the house? Because I can't, from this, maybe it's on the landscaping looking better, but
That's just the way it's scanned in.
yeah, just
Yeah,
make
I'll-
sure that the
I'll show it
driveway
all.
is drawn in, so we can see
Okay,
what the
so
visibility is.
we're kind of mixing things up here, so I'm going to restate the motion. We're going to do a view. That view will be subject to getting drawings revised and submitted to us so we can actually then have a clean set of drawings when we go out in the field. The topography comment will be reflected on the next application, which I'll get to in a moment after we clear this motion. And if you want to make revisions, you're welcome to. You got some feedback, but that's up to you, Uri. So is there a motion for
Motion to hold for a view.
a view and changing the?
And
cleaning
changing
up
the drawings, cleaning up the drawings.
Okay, on Abby's motion?
Aye.
All right. Any, I'm sorry, any, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Okay, Uri, what we're going to do on the next one is you're going to get a motion to include all the relevant information and a topographical site plan that shows the existing conditions and any changes if any are proposed.
It will be the same situation on the next one.
Perfect. So, and then that rehearing will be subject to getting those in by the deadline. Is there a motion
Yeah.
for topographical information and drawings to reflect all relevant?
So moved.
Okay, on Ray's motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
I don't know.
That brings us to 74 Mattocket.
Yes.
No, that was, oh, yeah, okay. I have to sit off this because I'm working on the house next door.
Okay. So I think that brings Connie up. So it'll be me, Abby, Angus, Ray,
Magic.
Connie. Good evening, Matt.
Good evening. You can do it.
What are we on?
74 Mattocket.
Thank you.
When you're ready.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is an application for a new dwelling. It currently is an empty lot. It's 74 Mattocket Road. I actually think the subsequent application is for like next door. So there are houses adjacent to this. They're indicated on the site plan. And so we've set the house fairly adjacent in terms of like how far they're set back from the road. But looked at a lot of the precedents in the area and tried to come up with a design that we thought was appropriate for this site. It's fairly straightforward. We've got 2/2 windows, cottage corners, tried to keep the massing fairly simple. There's a significant portion of the structure that's one story that, telescopes towards the rear of the property. So other than that, look forward to comments from the board, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. So I had this to review, and the reason I thought it should come to the board is I think the design overall is approvable. I was concerned about the height and the fact that some of it is masked by a 612 covered porch, and I just have a real aversion to that. I drive down some of our rural roads, and it just really jumps out at you as a atypical architectural element, is that particular pitch on these types of roofs. So that's why I held it. Who would like to begin?
I
Ray?
agree with those comments. And I'm trying to, for years, I've been trying to figure out why I don't like these sort of cross gable arrangements where the eaves, there is no eave really. It just comes to a point at four corners. And I think it's because there's no like face, there's no front because they both look the same. The sides look the same as the front. So, I'd be in favor of changing one of these, ideally the side as opposed to the front, from a gable to shed dormers or something like that. And also, I think the other reason I don't like them is they appear to max out because you've got like ridges running in both directions. So the massing of it is quite large. And that could be settled fairly easily with shed dormers. That's all I have to say.
Interesting. Thank you, Ray. Angus.
Thank you. I think my concern with the porches, I have a similar concern with the porch. And I think part of it has to do with the depth. If it were like 8 or 9 feet, it seems like it would be more proportional to the rest of the massing. But it feels pinchy or small in relation to the elevations that it's up against. So, and I think depth and, to Stephen's point, the pitch, 4 or 5 seems more appropriate than the 6. Thank you.
Thank you. Abby?
Yeah, so I'm trying to absorb this and listen. I think I like the front porch a lot. I like the 2/2s. I think the very large gable forward is crushing the building. I wish that it was smaller and then went out to the sides to cover some of that porch.
Sure.
Or maybe there are different, there's different massing to do that. But I think as drawn, that's an awfully sort of heavy line to have on the entire expanse of the front of the house. I think that's my main concern.
Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
Connie?
I don't really have much else to add. I do like the overall design. My primary concern was the 29.6 height of the building. Thank you.
Thanks. Matt, what of the, bear with me a moment. What of the east and the west will be visible as you're driving down the further away from on Nantucket Road? Can we go to the sheet
202.
A202, please, on the screen? Yeah, and zoom out a little bit so we get, go to the sheet here, please, and then zoom out a little bit so we get both elevations and center it. Yeah.
I could try to answer. So I think because there's houses on either side of it and they're located in somewhat equal distance from the road, that the rear section, I think will be, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, a lot of times I'll say like, oh, you can't see it, but then it'll be built and like, oh, you can see it. But so I think it'll be somewhat obstructed by the adjacent houses.
Okay, no, that's fine. I mean, I know I presume you've been out there and you've kind of studied
Yeah.
the site, so I figured if anybody had an idea, it would be you.
Yeah, you'll see portions of the east and west, but again, because those houses on either side of it are, probably like 25 feet away, it'll be somewhat obstructed, but.
Okay, so thank you. So I'm going to pick up where Ray left off, and I think if you look at the east-west elevations, my suggestion would be, and not to contradict Ray, but I think the easier lift would be, and along with what Abby had said, is that forward gable is kind of crushing the structure, not crushing the design. And I would suggest that just be eliminated and there be a dormer on the front, which we've seen with a covered porch, and it is a country look, and maybe some minor modification of the fenestration, and a slight lowering so you can get a lower roof pitch on the covered porch. And I think that addresses the primary comments that have been made.
Could I?
My name is Ray Pohl, and I approve of Stephen's suggestion.
Could I ask, through you, Mr. Chair, your opinion about the front elevation? And Abby had mentioned the concept of taking the forward gable and actually reducing the width. And I think it also dovetails into Ray's comment about it not coming to an exact point. There is a little bit of a return on the east and west elevation to make it more pronounced so that there is actually like maybe 24 inches of eave on either side.
I think it will help to alleviate the perception of it being too large. I don't know that it's going to alleviate. To me, it's an atypical design to have that gable there protruding from the primary roof on the front of the house and then have a hip roof covered porch below it. I would suggest that you run some scenarios and bring us the, 2 options at least.
Sure.
And one of them would be the elimination, because again, if you look at the east-west, it looks, I don't want to say something that would sound disparaging. That gable overloads the front end.
Yeah.
And I think reducing it, I'm not, personally, I don't think that will be successful, but maybe it will. But we know a tried and true winner is a shed dormer. And then you're just dealing with the height and that pitch of the covered porch. And all of a sudden, we went to, the next discussion is a 5-minute discussion or maybe consent versus an evening.
Sure. I also showed you
Go
some perspectives, because I think in 2-dimensional elevations, I agree with you that the east-west elevation, the projecting gable looks somewhat foreign, but I think in the perspective, the cross gable expresses itself a little bit differently. But I think I have enough feedback to make revisions, Mr. Chair.
And just on that A3031, so this actually makes Ray's point.
Yes.
That elevation, or the perspective, is that there really doesn't, the front and the side are the same massing. Okay, so.
I'll make a motion that we'll be delighted to see some new renovations.
Revisions, thank you.
Revisions.
Sounds good to me.
All in favor of Abby's motion, say aye.
Aye.
Delightful.
Any opposed? Okay, so Matt, the garage, is this a quad gable structure?
No. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I do like the cross gable myself.
Yeah.
No, it's a tricky one.
Okay.
Oh, the garage is for another property.
Yeah, no, 1 North Swift Rock. Val, you can jump in on that.
Yeah. I had this to review for consent, and I didn't personally have issues with it, but I know this was a controversial project, so I thought everybody should weigh in. And the abutters.
Okay, sounds like fun. Matt, why don't you walk us through it?
Sure. So this is, you've seen this property before. You approved the primary dwelling. After having some time like living in the house this summer, we looked at the main dwelling, and we're probably going to be coming back to you with some revisions, not too drastic. But in the short term, for the next probably like couple years, I'm guessing, you can see this master plan of where the main house is, and it's in a slightly different location than the previous approval. But in the short term, what we're trying to do here is 2 things. This application in particular is to move the approved garage to the location shown on the plan. It's roughly the same height. It's a different design, so I think it's probably worth looking at the different elevations. There's also a subsequent application for reusing the existing garage that's on site, and it's going to be converted into a studio. But tonight, we're here before you for relocating and redesigning the garage. So if we could maybe scroll through the elevations, that might be helpful. So we've got the comparative previous elevations. So it's not a significant departure. We have added an exterior stair, but that's further away from the road and the driveway. Again, not dramatically different. I think we did actually drop the height slightly, which is indicated on the elevations. And we have added a deck facing, there is a decent water view off the second floor. So we have added a deck off the side of the garage. But for the most part, the garage is similar to what was previously approved, with the exception of the exterior stair and its location and orientation.
Okay.
That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Matt. Holly, do any of the abutters have their hand up? This is for 1 North Swift Rock.
Lisa, I just unmuted her.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Lisa.
Can you hear me? Hi, Mr. Chairman. Lisa Berger, 27 Eel Point Road. I wanted to ask the HTC to relook at this whole compound, not just this one garage. They've made a lot of changes, including adding a pool house that is actually a 3rd dwelling. In addition to that, they've moved the house closer to The property next to us, which will actually, you'll be able to see it more from Eel Point Road. They've moved this garage directly in front of my deck, which you'll be able to see from North Swift Rock Road. In addition to that, you know, historically, this neighborhood was small houses, and originally it was one house, one garage. And now they have, looking at the ground covered ratio, it looks like they're over the amount they're allowed to have. If I calculated right, they're at 4.4%. So I'm just asking you to look at the whole thing. When you put up poles, for instance, of the new dwelling, it was in a much different location. And now that, you know, we had a very nice building envelopes in the neighborhood, so everybody had a view of the water, and we no longer will have that. So I just encourage you to relook at the whole site. In terms of this particular garage, the one issue that I have in addition to its location is the outdoor staircase. I just don't see any need for it. I think it's unfair for the neighbors to have to watch people go up and down the stairs. Why can't they do that inside the garage like everybody else's is? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, it's the regular board, and who'd like to be on?
Well,
Val.
I think we had Matt do this before on this project. You came in with like a perspective of the buildings in totality. I think that makes it easier to visualize the whole project.
Right.
And so maybe because this moved with regard to the other structures, that would be helpful.
We can do that.
And on that, just a question, Matt. The site plan reflects the currently approved locations of all the other structures?
No, it's the proposed. So for example, the future, where it says future dwelling,
Yeah.
that's the general location of the previously approved main dwelling, but that is indicative of where we plan to come back before you with that revised dwelling. Now, it doesn't change dramatically, but it is shifting its location. So we've indicated that as future, so we will be coming before you for those revisions, but that is an indication of where we would like to locate it. And again, it's not a dramatic difference from where it was, but we can certainly show you where it was approved previously.
Okay. And I did not I don't believe I sat on this and the prior application, so I'm at a little bit uncertain. You say future dwelling, that has not been submitted yet?
No, there was a primary dwelling that was approved of generally that same size and location, but there are a series of changes that we've made to that. So there was a main dwelling approved.
So I guess where I'm heading with it is, what do we have that you will be showing a perspective of that's actually what is intended?
So what we can do is show you perspectives of the existing dwelling that's there, the proposed relocated garage that will become the studio, the new garage location. And if you prefer, we can also show you the proposed, the dwelling with the revisions, as long as that's not confusing.
I think I would suggest, unless somebody feels differently, is show us what you're ultimately planning, and that way we can look at the totality.
Yep.
This evening, I'd like to briefly just get some input on the architectural elements of the garage itself, and we'll reserve the right to modify our comments, but I think that could be beneficial, because then if there's something that we have a consensus on that needs modification, we can address that, and it'll show up in the perspectives.
If I could also just add to that briefly, Mr. Chair, is that, as part of the garage approval, we actually did drop the height of the structure by 1'9", just in deference to comments that the board had made at the previous review, so.
Okay.
But other than that, we tried to basically maintain the same design, with the exception of, the changes are location, drop in height, exterior stair, and deck.
Okay, thank you. Ray, architectural elements of the garage?
Architectural elements, I don't object to. Nothing that we haven't approved many times in the past.
That's Ray. Abby?
I preferred the previous simpler version. I think the second floor deck can be narrowed down, and I think the columns underneath it, I mean, the whole thing could be sort of simplified and pulled together. Right now, it has that sort of, I don't know, it's just sort of sprawling. So I preferred the previous submission.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, Val?
Well, I kind of just thought we should see everything together, because sometimes it is the totality of all the structures on the
I know,
site.
yeah, I get you. I registered
I
that.
think the second floor deck is too big, and the stair, if it was just a stair going up, would be a lot less noticeable.
Okay, thank you.
And Matt, I can't remember, where was the garage before? It doesn't show where it was before.
We can show you where that was, but it was, yeah, it'd be hard to describe it. Basically, it was between where it is proposed to be now and where the studio is, if that makes sense. Pretty much where elevation 27 is, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Val. Let's see, Angus.
I think that the elements themselves are all approvable, except for that, the exterior stair. I think Val has a good suggestion of just keeping to the width of the stair. And if there's some way to mitigate visibility of it. Above the garage doors, the two gable dormers, it feels a bit forced. And I'm not sure if it's just because the dormers are too large or too close together. But for the overall scale of the roof, I think single windows or a shed dormer would work better than the two double window dormers. And other than that, I agree with what's been said. Thank you.
Thanks, Angus. I agree on the dormers, and otherwise I agree with Ray.
Mr. Chair, could I just add one comment to that? On that sheet, you can see that the previous approval, so those dormers were previously approved, so we haven't changed those. And those are also, they are intended to emulate the existing gable dormers that are found on the existing second dwelling. So we basically copied that style, if you will, and they were approved. That's all I have. Thank you.
Note that there were two people who commented on them, and you can also bring that up at the later. The perspectives will show that there's common vocabulary, so
that'll help.
So we're looking for the perspective, we're looking for any modifications you may make, and the perspective will show what it is you intend ultimately to be there. Within reason, obviously, the future dwelling hasn't been approved or even submitted yet, so.
We'll indicate that.
Yeah,
too.
okay. So motion hold for revisions and more information.
No motion.
On Ray's motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that carries. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
We're on to 33 Cliff. We're leaving here at 8 o'clock whether we finish or not. So let's try and finish.
I had a question about this right out of the gate.
You don't worry about it, Missy. 33 Cliff, new dwelling. Good evening, Lisa.
Hi there. This is a new dwelling to replace the house that was approved for a demolition, I think about a month ago.
Was it?
Not by us.
No, I
we
know it was Chip
represented.
Webster.
You guys, we're never going to go out of here at 8 o'clock. We have crosstalk. Go ahead, Lisa.
I'm just waiting for the drawings to come up. It's a new structure. So hang on, here they come. It's basically in the same location as the old building, but moved back from the bluff a bit more, so a little closer to the road. And then the site plan shows you schematically the idea of keeping the flanking buildings at the driveway, not the ones that are there, but the concept of keeping those two gatehouses that exist today.
Okay. Anything else you want to add?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Any questions for Lisa at this time? Holly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the record, this structure is replacing the, I think, 1980 Horchow house that was there. So this is a grand gambrel. Appreciate retaining the front benches that exist on the Horchow house. I was curious on the glazing percentage on both the front and back elevations. The length of the ridge, I didn't see a dimension on that, does seem a little long, and I would recommend that the chimney corbelling is more atypical as recommended in building with Nantucket in mind. Other than that, I don't have concerns. I do appreciate it being moved closer to the house and away from the bluff, and probably Concom as well. So thank you.
Thank you. I just want to identify the board, myself, Abby, Angus, Val, and Joe. And Mickey, you guys got anything on this?
A couple things. So the bay windows are a little bit of a concern. They seem to be kind of wide relative to the size of the wall surface that they're on. They're also kind of just floating and unsupported. Some sort of bracketing or some visual support would be helpful, I think. I'm not sure what material the roof is. It almost looks like it's a metal roof. On the rear, we'll stay in the front. The benches just seemed overscaled. I don't mind the benches. I think they're appropriate. We've seen them before, but they just seem pretty large. And the windows beside them actually seem underscaled. And then on the back facing the water, there's a lot of French doors. Maybe that could be, some of those could be changed to windows. Thank you.
Thank you, Mickey. Let's see, who'd like to begin? Joe?
Sure, I'll go. Thank you. This is, what'd you call this, a grand gambrel? Is that what you call it? Yeah. I like a lot of the elements here, and I think that they're appropriate for the area. My first thought, or first question was where those benches came from, but it sounds like they are part of the structure that was there, at least in concept. And maybe it's intentional, but they feel flat, under-articulated, so I think they could use, I feel like they could use a little bit more attention that looks like it's been placed throughout the rest of the building. I agree with Mickey on those flanking windows feeling a little bit tiny. And I was wondering if, 'cause there are a lot of dormers, which you'd expect on a gambrel. And especially when I look at the south elevation and the north elevation, I feel like the corner boards could go away, at least on the dormers. I think especially since the trim's all white. I feel like having the gambrel roof with the dormers with corner boards are gonna kind of spoil the pleasing nature of the gambrel. And then I don't feel as strongly about this comment, but I would be interested to see if there were cottage corners throughout, and maybe there's a little bit of a flare at where the first floor wall meets the foundation, because it feels like the top has a lot of movement happening, and it feels like the first floor below that sill line just feels a little bit under-articulated. I mean, I'm kind of being nitpicky of details, because overall, I think that the massing feels appropriate, and the scale of it, it's a grand scale, but it actually reads like, I think once this thing weathers out, it's gonna feel like it's always been here. I think you could probably look at some railing detail too on the east elevation on the second floor. That railing detail just feels a little bit too common for the style of this house. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Joe. Val?
I so appreciate this house, for many reasons. I'm looking at the old house online and wow. Double decks and it's crazy. And lots of fenestration, so that really isn't bothering me at all. I don't think I have much to say. I think it's appropriate for the area. And if I remember correctly, there was an old vintage house fairly close to this that you worked on that was a gambrel, an old,
Yeah.
old,
That came up recently, yeah.
yeah. So it ties in the neighborhood, you know, that's what I'm trying to say, historically. Yeah, I don't have anything.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, Abby?
Yeah, this is a very rich gambrel, very rich. And I love Joe's idea of the cottage corners with maybe a flare at the bottom. I think it would calm it down a little bit and make it a little less rich. At first, I thought the trim was, it looked like a dark green because it's, because the detailing. Then somebody said it was white and I was like, all right, but dark green would be sort of amazing. And the comment made about the benches being overwhelming the little windows. I think it looks a little Alice in Wonderland-ish with, like, the scale just got kind of wonky. But really enjoying looking at this design. Thank you.
Thanks, Angus?
Thanks. I appreciate the scale and detailing. I think there have been really good comments about the loss of the corner boards and the flare at the base, just sort of respond to that flare on the roof. I like the play with the scale at the front door with the benches and the little 9-light windows. I think in the east elevation, I appreciate that there aren't rows of four panels of doors. Even where there are on the first floor, there seems to be a separation of with a mullion between the double and the singles. I think the one that would stand out to me the most would be that second floor towards the north side on the east elevation. I'd rather see that be if there is going to be a French door flanked by windows rather than 4 panels. But that's what was there. Yeah. And the way that the bay windows on the front and back are drawn with the roof, it does sort of look like it's something other than shingles going horizontally, and maybe that's just a drafting thing. On the application, it says red cedar everywhere, so I'm assuming that would be the same, consistent. And I agree with about the comment about the rails. It seems like there might be something that would tie in a little bit better, whether part of it's shingled or I don't know, something, but it feels like it's not quite meeting the rest of the design as far as detailing. And I did agree with Mickey's comment about the bay windows on the front, on the west elevation. They feel a little heavy, and maybe it just needs to be, that middle portion needs to be 4 lights wide instead of 5 or something like that. And in some way that it feels supported from below. I don't know if brackets are the way to go or some sort of floor out, but something to make it feel supported there. That's all, thank you.
Thanks, Angus. So my thoughts are, let's see, get the little stuff out of the way. First of all, I think it's a really great design and the historical reference Val mentioned. Corner boards, woven corners instead. I think the bench is actually appropriately sized and proportioned with respect to the flanking windows. I think changing the size of those windows is going to change the perception of the focal point, which is the entryway and the bench. I think a comment was made, I believe, to the effect that a textural element of the benches would benefit, so maybe some type, to the extent this is visible, but some type of a pattern that follows the profile of the side, just inset. Maybe it's a color change that reflects two different colors of the trim, I don't know. But I think that would be a traditional approach to giving them a little bit of character in and of themselves, which is becoming of their location. I have no issue with the 4-panel being downsized on the rear. I think the balance on the front with the bay windows in the dormer as a 5-bay is actually most appropriate. And I think ultimately the biggest concern I have after those relatively minor elements, because some of them don't make changes, is the color of the trim. And I think a dark green or a dark gray is going to be something that would be more becoming than a white. I'm kind of anything but white on this particular design. Those are my comments. Do we want to hold for some revisions?
Yes, I'll make that motion.
Okay. It seemed like there was enough there to suss through.
Yeah, no, I think my only comments would be that, I mean, we can look at getting rid of the corner boards on the first floor. I do agree with Joe, certainly getting rid of them on the dormers makes sense. I tend to like them grounding the first floor of a building myself. And I think the color is not going to be dark green.
Yeah, I understand, but I'm just saying something that white is not, I think, going to make this design.
Although I think white is appropriate I do think white's appropriate on this house.
I know there's a motion on the table, but it's just a question about color. Because shutters aren't called out on the
Okay, yeah.
application, the
They would
color
not be
isn't.
white. Yeah, they
So, and just a point, and then, I don't know if the front door is different than other doors, but that says doors white. I'm just-
Yeah, no, we use this, there's a sort of a grayish blue that we like to use, mineral alloy. That's probably what we would do for the shutters in the door.
So
The French doors would be white, but the the front door, mudroom doors could be the mineral alloy.
Okay, so just please review the application to make sure that you get what you
Yeah.
propose, what it is you want.
Okay.
Did we vote on that motion?
No.
Not yet.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're on the 7 North Gully.
Yeah. So I'll start with the site plan because there's, we hit groundwater here, so we can no longer do a basement, pretty significant groundwater. So we have added, and this site plan now shows the septic system. So this site is a little complicated in that there are these, you can see the dashed lines on the north side of the lot are all height restrictions. And so anything with, up to the first line cannot be over a certain elevation above mean high water. And so the grade at the site is set at elevation 12, I believe. You can see that hill now, the septic system needs to be where it is because it's 100 feet away from a resource area. That hill gradates up pretty dramatically. So we have, now that we have the septic design, which we didn't have before, we are realizing we need some retaining walls. So so in addition to the revisions to the house, there are retaining walls here on this plan, which I can submit for separately if you want them done separately, but I wanted to let you guys know why they're there. So the maximum ridge height of this building is set by this deed restriction, so we really don't have the ability to raise the grade unless we want to do a single-story house. So that's why the grade is set at elevation 12. So the retaining wall right by the parking area would be 3 feet high because the grade is at 12 and the parking's at 15. And we are proposing sort of those traditional, I have some pictures of, you don't see a lot of retaining walls in the neighborhood, but there are, and I can pass these out. This is from the playground. They look like they're old rubble walls that have been skim coated and then the skim coating is coming off. What we're planning on.
It's going to be Me, Abby, Angus, and Val and Carrie.
And they would be vegetated on the downhill side, so you wouldn't see them because they'd be blocked by the house. But there is one up by the other parking area that would be visible.
Oh, yeah, that's big enough.
So anyway, I wanted to point that out. And then the other changes, if you go through the elevations, so what we ended up doing, originally that big front gable was a cathedral space. So because we can't develop the basement, we're adding a dormer there, facing the road. And we were sort of basing the dormer on the house, the homestead in Quidnet, which is just a large shed dormer. It's very simple. And just 4 windows that align with the windows and doors below. Go one more sheet, I believe. One more, sorry. That one. So that's the major change, is rather than just having a clean roof line, because we needed to add a second floor to that space, we added that dormer. And then as you go around the building, there's a couple other kind of more minor revisions. On the west, there was redoing the fenestration of the dormer, adding a little bracketed roof over the mudroom door. We removed the window well that was under the triple window, since we're no longer doing the basement. And let's see if there was anything else there.
I can go if you want.
Okay, yeah, please. Well, actually, hold on.
Sorry.
Holly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is an infill dwelling within Codfish Park, obviously located within the old Sconset Historic District. The front dormer, I think, gets rid of its charm, but in the previous approval, obviously was, I think, appropriate. However, I do appreciate the symmetry with that first floor elevation. And I think it is within that appropriate. The loss of the exterior chimney adds character to the to this structure within the Codfish Park. But while it's sad, I think that detail is fine with the addition that needs to be done. I think my only main comment would be that the dormer is actually shown right up to the ridge and bring it down. Other than that, those are my comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Holly.
Can I
Okay,
just,
Abby, now you can
can I get clarification just on your comments, Holly?
Yeah.
You guys prefer to see an exterior chimney? I always thought you'd like them to be interior.
If I may, Mr. Chair,
Yeah,
through you,
please.
just because it's Codfish Park, it's, yes, mostly in the old historic district, not having it, but it's in Sconset, I think it's different.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
that would be my,
Because we're happy to pull it out if
Thank
everybody
you.
wants,
Abby?
anybody wants it out.
Yeah, so I was just listening to that conversation. So first of all, I really, really like the original roof line. It was so simple, it was so Codfish Park, it just like popped right in there and no one would know it was brand new. Now it's getting a little more noisy. I appreciate the symmetry, and I've seen this house before. I really like this design. I've seen them around. I can think of a couple in my mind, so, I mean, it makes sense, but the original had that codfish simplicity. And about the chimney, I understand what Holly's saying. I'm just wondering if it couldn't be a little skinnier and maybe have an owl. So I know there are a lot of owls around Sconset. This chimney looks a little heavy-handed, a little stout for its stature. The other details that you've added and are, I don't have any objection to. I can't think of a lot of retaining walls. I know I've seen a couple, maybe there are a few when you're walking up the cliff right there, there might,
That, right there, and, or the pictures, there
Yeah,
aren't very many that are visible. You know
Yeah.
where you go up, where, God, that walkway is.
so, I just wanted to say that you could, but berming would be more, I think, more, so you're in the dunes there, and I think, you're just back from the ocean by 100 feet or
There's a building in front of
Guys, I
us.
want to,
But, so my point is that I think stone walls are, maybe there are a few, but I would berm wherever possible instead of doing hardscaping.
let me get this straight. You're in favor of berming and not walls?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
Well, just that I like the first
Well, that I
original.
got. Okay, let's see. Carrie's on this. Carrie?
I think it's appropriate.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Let's see. Angus?
Thanks. As well proportioned as the proposed dormer is on the south, I feel like the simplicity of that original proposal was what was helping to mitigate the busyness that happened behind it, seen on the east and west, with the dormers and the different pitches and all that. And I'm missing that. And then the dormer itself is, it looks like it's flush with the front wall, and I'm not sure if maybe it's meeting guidelines from the gable wall, if it's 3 feet or not, I'm not sure. But it really does consume what simplified this structure. I agree about the chimney, just because that west gable looks empty. There's just the 2 windows on it, and I think it makes more sense if there's a chimney going up between the windows and up into that blank gable area. And I looked on the application and in on the plans, and I don't see a roof pitch for the front, but that looks pretty shallow. It looks less than a 4. So those are my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Angus. Val?
I love it.
I love it. I think that leaves me. Aside from the chimney, which I agree, I think would be slightly thinner and maybe an owl on it, I don't have any concerns.
Okay.
So what do we want to do?
Motion to approve is submitted
With changes to the chimney.
with changes to the chimney
Per Exhibit A?
for Exhibit A.
Just programmatically thinner by 9 inches works, or does that mess with your flues?
Well, we'll check. I mean, we'll make it
Okay, so
more proportional.
basically the better part of a foot in each direction.
But it's
and
not
all.
moving outside the building, right?
No, that wasn't part of it.
Okay,
I understand the point, but I think given its location, that wasn't a concern for me.
yeah.
So Val's motion is Exhibit A, showing the chimney lightened up by 9 inches in both directions, an owl, and that's it.
Pussycat.
On Val's motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm a little opposed to it. You know I like it, but
Abby's a
little?
little opposed, which qualifies as a no. Okay, we're on to,
Can I just ask a clarification question? Do I need to come in separately for the retaining walls?
no.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you for including them regardless. That's helpful.
doesn't have to come in for the retaining walls?
6 Goldfinch Drive, Matt? Yeah, you can.
Umbrellas take a while. You know, there's a lot to.
Good evening, Matt.
Good evening. With your permission, Mr. Chair, I'll just run through it real quick.
Yeah, let me give you your board. It's me, Abby, Angus, Ray, and Connie.
Are we in Goldfinch?
Okay, so this is 6 Goldfinch, and it's basically in addition to an existing structure. It's a series of basically one-story additions. I think actually this sheet's a good one. So drawing one, you can see this is the existing elevation. And so we're doing a one-story bump out, expanding the first floor by about 3 to 4 feet in the form of a one-story shed-roofed addition. We're also adding a dormer that's set pretty far back from the facade. Drawing 2 shows the scope of the addition, first floor towards the rear of the property, and the second floor dormer. We tried not to change too much of the existing massing schematic, if you will, but it's just a desire to add some additional square footage to this structure. A majority of it falls in the back of the property, which I don't think is really visible. And what additions are visible from the road are one story. So we are showing a pergola, a solid covered pergola in the back of the building. The geometries of the existing roof structures are, they're pretty steep roof pitches and kind of gets a little complex towards the rear. We studied a number of different options and thought this was the best. So with that, look forward to comments from the board, Mr. Chair. And this has been reviewed and approved by the Homeowners Association.
Oh, good.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Let's see. Who would like, any concerns?
I don't have any.
Nope.
but-
Let's see, Connie, you had,
Right, I did review
you happen to
this.
be on it and you happen to review it. Do you have any concerns still, or they've been addressed?
They've been addressed.
Okay, thank you. Motion?
Motion to approve is submitted.
Okay, all in favor of Connie's motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're moving on to Quonset huts. Is there any reason we can't take these together?
That's what I'm gonna do. They're
Okay.
exactly the same.
Thank you
They're
for
the-
letting
One's
us.
larger than the other one, but they're the same colors, they're the same, they're actually further back from Bunker Road.
Okay,
than
hold
the
on,
other
Linda,
ones.
hold on. Let us get our little house in order, and then this will,
Get your Quonset hut in order.
hopefully quickly go through. In terms of an efficient, effective process. Your board is a regular board.
Yep.
Your site plan is up?
Not, I don't see it up there yet.
Okay, I just don't have eyes in the back of my head.
There it is.
so- Okay, why don't you just briefly walk us through this, and we'll give you a chance to filibuster after the fact if it's required.
2 Quonset huts, there are Quonset huts on that, on Bunker Road, behind a security fence. I gave you pictures of everything else out there, the asphalt plant, the other Quonset huts, the big, huge NRTA building. Most of the buildings out there are metal and much taller than these. These are
Motion to
on
approve.
1 story, and
Okay.
fits in with the neighborhood, and it's the commercial industrial
You see.
where you want.
And the colors?
Gunmetal gray, like the rest of them.
Are there any concerns?
I had it on consent, I think.
Okay. Ray's motion is to approve as submitted. This is both Quonset hut 1 and 2, 33A Bunker Road. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, those carry.
Thanks, and we're holding Turk, the very last one.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. We're gonna be here tomorrow night late, so, it was me, Abby, Angus, Ray, and Connie. Yeah, and now we are on to the regular board, 16 Ridge Lane. Ethan? I think
Even from,
that's a hold. Good evening, Ethan.
Good evening.
When you're ready.
Okay, this is an addition to an existing house, 16 Bridge Lane. It's essentially an infill in certain areas, and then an extension to the rear. We're also adding a dormer on the rear. Yeah, but most of the addition is sort of one-story massing. That's the site plans, the front of the house. There's many versions of this model in the Fisher's Landing development. And then here are the existing and proposed elevations. So on the right-hand side, that's the front elevation. Essentially, we're sort of infilling and wrapping the existing porch. And then on the left-hand side, that's really where most of the work is. We're sort of extending to the rear with a dormer and then a bedroom mass, with a little sort of connector between. Yeah, I think visibility is limited, but we're trying to sort of work with the existing vernacular of the house in the neighborhood and kind of inject a little kind of Matakidy sort of flavor into it.
Thank you. Let's see, any questions? Holly? Is there? Yellow is Nantucket?
It's Nantucket,
Okay.
Fisher's Landing, right? Fisher's Landing?
Yeah.
I always get those two mixed up.
Oh, yeah, Ridge Lane, okay.
Yeah. I noticed that this is a non-contributing structure built in 1983. I do appreciate the changes and understand the reason for the fenestration to not match. It's quirky Nantucket. I didn't have any concerns. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So regular board, and who would like to go?
I'll go.
Val?
I think it's lovely.
Okay.
I'd have concerns about the little connector if you could see it, but you're never gonna see it.
Abby?
Nice job.
Yeah, that was going to be my question, whether you could see those transoms from anywhere. Otherwise, I'm good. And that's green trim, right?
Correct, it's a dark green, match existing.
Angus?
The transoms caught my eye, and the picture window in the dormer caught my eye, but I don't think any of this is going to be visible, and I don't have any concerns. Thank you.
I spent some time out in that area recently, and I don't have any concerns. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, Abby's motion to approve is submitted. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I think I was one of these, wasn't I?
Thank you.
We're now on to 13 Washington Street, new roof.
With 8 minutes to spare.
Before we leave, I wanna bring
I thought it
something
said
up.
Walsh.
Did I say Walsh? I thought I did.
Oh, I thought you said Washington. Maybe,
What are you thinking?
I don't know.
I don't think I did. Somebody's gonna have
I
to
think
watch
you
the
did.
tape on that.
Play that back, please.
Okay, so 13 Walsh, do we have anyone?
Washington.
Abby,
Well,
you
that
had,
color isn't consentable in time.
okay, so why don't we let the applicant know that the color's not consentable in town? It's not, actually, I want to correct myself. It's not that it's not consentable, it's that it's not approvable, therefore it's not consentable. So they need to make a modification and resubmit to something that is approvable, and that very likely could then go on consent.
There you go.
Okay, so it's,
Thank you,
I see, I can
Alice.
still think before 8 o'clock. After 8 o'clock, I really go downhill quick. Linda is holding 15 Marsh Hawk Lane. I would like to announce that we have completed the items on our agenda, processing the better part of 70 applications this evening.
It's pretty good.
Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of June 4th, June 18th, June 25th, July 2nd, July 9th, August 27th, and September 3rd?
So moved.
There must be something afoot that all these minutes are coming in so quickly.
I know, what is that?
I wonder what's going on tomorrow night.
I haven't read them.
On the, there'll be the regular board. Is there a
And that's
motion?
been changes that have been provided to the emails to me.
Okay.
If there's any
Corrections submitted to date. Okay, revision submitted to date. Is there a motion?
I am not gonna,
You can make the motion and abstain.
I can?
Yeah,
Why would I do that?
because you can make a motion for the purposes of advancing the meeting agenda,
Okay,
but it.
I'll make that motion.
I had already made the motion, but
Oh, right.
Oh, well, thank you, Angus. So you just saved Val any discomfort. All in favor of Angus' motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I abstain.
I have a topic I'd like to.
Okay, before we get to Val's topic, our next meeting is Thursday. See you soon. I
Tomorrow
mentioned
night.
at the beginning of the meeting, please, our next scheduled meeting is the HDC for HDC and for business. Is the efficient and effective meetings, and if you can think of topics you want to bring up, I need to please have them submitted to Holly. We do have some items on that we will be putting together an agenda for under that umbrella. Actually, the umbrella is efficient and effective meeting habits. Val, let's see, tomorrow night we have a The select board will be reviewing its assessment of our activities, which, by the way,
right.
that report does not coincide with what we asked for, number one. Number two, it's very old. A lot has changed here. We have new members. We have different best practices we've implemented. So, as I'll say tomorrow, it's data that's stale and it's not relevant. Yep.
I just wanted to mention that that meeting has been posted for the board, so,
I was gonna go there next.
okay.
Also tomorrow at the select board, we have the 2 Mariner Way appeal. I understand I'll be representing that. I'll put together a defense tomorrow before the meeting, and we'll see where we end up. Val, you wanted to comment on something?
I do, because it's gonna affect, we are getting bumped out of this room on the 19th so that there is a public meeting for South Coast Wind, which I would like to attend. I am gonna come and represent my one application, but then I'd like to be there. I think it would behoove anybody who wants to have something to say to please do so. And I wanted to ask Angus, it seems you're our representative as the HPC person for these wind discussions, and I wanted to know if you had given any comments, because nobody's asked us for comments. And I just encourage everyone to, if you can attend, to write something down.
And that, well, one sec, because I don't want to go. So that's a commissioner comment. It'll be added to the agenda, and it'll be acknowledged at the next meeting Thursday. Angus, you can answer Thursday. Because we're not, look, we can respond to new business items that weren't anticipated. We don't have to have them on the agenda. As chair, I'm not comfortable doing that. It opens up a can of worms that we are not prepared, nor do we have the individually, as a commission or administratively, we don't have the resources to address those things. So we will continue with our longstanding practice that if it's not on the agenda and a comment is made, we don't comment on it and we go to the next one. So please note the select board meeting for wind, and Angus, if you want to give us an update. Okay, thank you, Val.
Okay.
Let's see, I think we're ready for a before 8 o'clock motion.
Motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wow.